And of course, speaking of, we got to start breaking down that match, Rebel Fox, because Cloud9 Amateur and Area of Effect, they're going to be up first.
It is, to say the least, these two teams have not been on our radar for a while because neither one had to play in UGP. They both qualified from EGL back in the day, so it's been well over a month since we've seen them play. And even worse, they have not played each other inside of any of the tournaments here in the second half of Proving Grounds. So we haven't gotten to see these two teams interact. This is the first recorded series that we will have gotten a chance to actually see between these two. So we've got an enigma. We've got one of the very rare first times a series is going to be played between amateur teams here on the Proving Grounds.
Yeah, the last time Cloud9 Amateur played on a patch was 11.14, AOE 11.15, so they've been skipping a bit as we head into this matchup here today. But first, taking a look over at Cloud9 Amateur, you know, this roster was made in December of 2020 with the tagline, "Building new talent is our specialty." Only one change in the bot lane, that is going to be the support role, Breezy stepping up since February, and so far it hasn't been too bad. They qualified in Risen's RCL, taking second seed over there after having a brutal match with both Wildcard and Zeus. But, you know, past results aside, they're looking like a strong team that's looking for development.
They really are. When we came into like the first Proving Grounds, we were looking for very high expectations from some of our LCS affiliated amateur organizations. A lot of them kind of fell flat where we wanted them to show up to, C9 being one of them, not being able to qualify for that first Proving Grounds. They really turned things around, becoming one of our favorite organizations, you know, taking that number 2 seed from amateur and being the second team to have qualified, that 5 game banger that came about from the Risen finals and things of that sort. This roster has been together for a very long time. They've got some talent names you might have seen before. Captain Shrimps has been about inside of the area. Breezy has been about as well. He was around for quite a bit. But then XU, Speed, Wixie, all kind of new names you might not be recognized with, but every single one of them very talented, and especially given the amount of time they've had together, this team's looking very complete in the way that they play.
And speaking of relatively new teams, Area of Effect joining the competition as of January 2021. I had a talk with Riley, and he said one of the expectations was to be able to get to this state within 2 to 3 years of starting this org. They're able to do it in 8 months. He feels confident in his players and in his staff, and the performances they've been able to put up, it's definitely echoed that. I mean, second place in UPL Spring, second place in the EGL. They're always so close, and you know, even with slobber knockers that we saw with EGP versus AOE, they're looking to bring it here today at the LCS Proving Grounds.
That they are. They've got talent that you might recognize as well. You think about RBM, who's been about in some of these teams, was on Zeus just a year ago, was able, or about this split ago, my apologies, when they were able to make it to Proving Grounds. Darkwings in that same fashion. Might recognize him from a couple of different places. I think the other 3 components have also made massive impacts. Sketch Dreams has been amazing alongside Zyko, who stepped in the middle of the split for this roster when Fizzy stepped down, who was obviously TSM Academy's like kind of support when Yurson wasn't around. Faisal has also kind of stepped into a very meaningful role here for AOE. They've got talent in every single one of their roles. They're confident in the talent of their players across the board, and you can usually tell why when the game starts to pick up.
Yeah, but now we got to start looking at the lanes, because one of the lanes that has been popping out to both of us is going to be that mid lane matchup. It makes me excited to be able to get into that one, because that's going to be Captain Shrimps versus Darkwings. You got the captain of the ocean, you know, sailing his ship through the champion ocean, mind you, going against Darkwings as well, who's been much more of an established control mage. The meta is shifting towards that way, so almost a little bit of a mirror image of each other when it comes to the Rift here today, and it's definitely going to be something interesting to see these two go at it.
They're 2 players that can always rely on their mechanics, and they both have very deep champion pools that extend into the assassin range. You think about things like Kiana from the previous Proving Grounds that Darkwings was able to bring out back when he was on Zeus. You think about Fizz for Captain Shrimps. You also think about the Rumble that he kind of made his name on, and it's been insane. Been able to pull that out a couple of times. When it comes to the champion like matchup that we're going to see in the mid lane, yes, it's possible that we see Orianna and Syndra and some of the control mages, Rise, LeBlanc, things that have been popular recently, but do not kind of like give away the fact, don't just forget the fact that these two have a lot of champions they can pull out of their back pocket, especially in this very, very kind of focused one-on-one matchup between the 2 of them that they want to put a bunch of pressure into.
Now, I have to wonder how the jungle matchup is going to affect the mid lane as well, because we always have to keep in mind that the jungle's just floating around to any which lane they so please. So you look over at RBM, you know, he has been this sort of darling in the amateur season and definitely been pivotal in a lot of success that you get from AOE. Then you look at over at XU, who plays much more of an aggressive style. You get those carry junglers like the Kindred, like the Graves. It's definitely opposing styles when it comes to this jungle matchup.
it's very cool because we get to see a reflection of styles, but they're also both very, very big shot callers for their team. You think how that plays into things where like RBM is tending to play for something that's a bit more supportive. We've seen like Mundo, we've seen a bunch of champions that can make impacts in the lane, trying to help his lanes out because of just how talented Faisal, Darkwing, Sketchstream, Zyko are when they're able to pull gold and resources. He supports that well and communicates that. Whereas XU, his kind of ability to talk, it's been supplanted. We've heard about like Captain Shrimp's Wixie speed kind of stepping up, but he and Breezy do a lot of that shot calling, and I'm curious how that kind of dynamic shifts when he's the one that's pulling gold. If he's pulling resources or he's saying, hey lanes, I need some support here, that dynamic I think does change things. If you're talking about jungle mid and you're like XU needs support for Captain Shrimps, can AOE kind of set something up to prevent that from happening, or can Cloud9 actually pull those two together as much as possible, win that 2v2?
Well, that's where it gets me excited, because we were talking earlier about some of the picks that we see RBM go through with, and one of them that was popping out a lot was the Mundo. Getting those tank junglers there, being able to help the team, being that big impact, that soak of damage for the team. It'll be fun to see if some of those picks go out. Taking a look at other picks that we are expecting, one of the things that one of the lanes I take a look at is over going to be in the bot lane, Wixie and Breezy. This is interesting to me because when we look at Wixie, he's been one of those more clear-cut ADCs when it comes down to it. He barely plays mages in the bottom. When it comes to Ziggs, something we've been seeing pick banned, high prio, so many times over the last couple of months, he's only played it twice in the year.
Yeah, Wixie is what I would call like a classical marksman. When you think back in the days of like you play Jinx and then you set up for a 40-minute game and then you let your Jinx kind of do all the carrying. That's what Wixie kind of like reminds me of, because he's willing to take Jinx, or Ezreal is the big one that always kind of pops up when his name comes about, because he wants to play more for like setting himself into the later stages, mid and late game team fights, positioning, team fighting, oftentimes really that bread and butter for this player. A lot of times kind of reminds me of King over on C9 Academy, the team that like went to finals and took TLA to a very long distance, and he's kind of among that as well, because I mean he's right there with him on the C9 organization, being in this amateur organization alongside them. Sketchstream, Zyko have this very unique opportunity. This bot lane has come about to me as being one of the better bot lanes we've seen develop in amateur, and they can play a bit more on the front foot. They can play something like the Callista and kind of attack this lane as much as possible. It's something interesting also to kind of pay attention to is if you're going to defense like Ezreal, if you're going to something like Jinx, if you're going to some more of these hyper carries, can they attack that bottom lane for the side of AOE?
We're going to have to find out as Champion Select is ready. We're going to head into the draft right now. Area of Effect versus Cloud9 Amateur.
We've had so many patches pass by without seeing either of these two teams, so we haven't gotten a chance to really see what their development has looked like. And my favorite thing about all of this is, despite all of the changes we've had, despite not having much information on the draft that has really changed, it's still Captain Shrimp's Twisted Fate that gets removed. When Twisted Fate was out of meta for like 3 continuous years and just started to get popped back in, one of the first mid laners that grabbed that was Captain Shrimps. And he's kind of made it his calling card, being able, literally his calling card, to be able to attack the remainder of the map. And because XU tends to play this damage role, they need somebody who's able to facilitate the map a bit more. This champion being taken away, very good from AoE.
Yeah, and really focusing on the mages from both teams so far. LeBlanc taken off the map as well as Rise. Trundle will be banned away. No surprise on the mage bans, though, because as we know, the meta has been shifting back towards those control mages, and both of these mid laners are very prominent at that. Now Xin Zhao going to be the last man taking that away from XU.
Interesting to see double mid lane ban Xin Zhao being taken away from XU, only because, again, XU does like to play some of this extra stuff. Being on red side also opens up Captain Shrimp's pool a bit more, XU's pool a bit more. You think about champions that like those who can play like the Graves that we talked about, or some of the counter picks that Captain Shrimp's might bring through, just making sure to take away the power so that you don't have something that you can like take very immediately for AoE to bring out. With Thresh taken off the board, I was about to say Lee Sin's still available, and especially with Trundle and Xin Zhao both taken off the board, feels like this is the next logical jungler when it comes to like who's going to be able to pressure early game that you're going to want to control things with.
Yeah, Lee Sin, so much early game power when you are able to get that, find those early ganks, find the early damage. Can be a pest to deal with when it comes to the jungle. Still hovering that, not quite confident to lock that in just yet. Gonna let the timer run out before it does go through. See, this does leave some interesting things over on the side of the red team as C9 Amateur. We're talking about a lot of the things that they do like to go for here and there. We were talking about some of the priority that may pop up. Tom Kench was one of the champions we were having a conversation about when it came between these two teams.
Yeah, Tom Kench is interesting. I don't know how much C9 Amateur is going to be able to play that, especially for Speedo in the top side of the map. The thing that pops up for me is Camille for him. It's one of his more popular picks, and it's really become kind of more pivotal inside of this. Viego has been brought through. That's been kind of pinched out recently, and I think teams have still been trying to figure out what to do with it, only because it's still getting banned in half the series. Another half the series, like, it just doesn't show up because of that range disadvantage. Clear that C9 has been prepping for something like this, some of the preparation that they've done in the past month and a half, because a lot of people that have been kind of shied away from this sort of thing have come back to it here for the side of C9 Amateur. Comfortable for XU to take one of these damaging type junglers to be able to work with.
So can't really blame going for the Leona right here. Going to grab that, get the engage, get a lot of power going on the side of C9 Amateur when it comes to just having that mid-game skirmish, being able to catch out members and take that fight straight to them. Area of effect are just doing the hover roulette. They feel like they're going to go for the Braum, and yeah, that will be locked in over on the side of area of effect. So you do got that defense working there. You got a little team fight ability, disengage, engage, either way you want it.
I've seen this into Leona more and more. Fighting for melee range against Leona isn't always easy with the amount of CC she's got, but Braum's ability to block damage from a ranged champion, the ultimate as well, safety as well for something like the Aphelios, which is set up here for sketch streams very effectively. It means that they've got quite a bit to work with here. It's a defensive bottom lane, which again, when you're playing into Wixie and Breezy, this feels like they could easily take something like the Ezreal, and then they could go for more of a roaming style with Breezy, who is one of the more veteran type players to be able to help the map with across the board. So C9 Amateur might be opened up for something like that if they do find that angle here.
A lot of early games have been decided by C9 Amateur going for the Callista, but if we're going to go for some power, well, you can get a little bit of the same momentum going on if you do grab the Zig. So lots of oppression being drafted on the side of the bot lane of C9 Amateur.
We talked about Wixie has only played this a handful of times, clearly working on it in that month and a half. We haven't been able to see this team. So here we go. Wanting to shove in Aphelios as much as possible to begin the game. They've also got a very powerful Leona again for roaming. So they can leave Wixie into the bottom lane to his own devices, let him scale up, that kind of thing. They could also just move their bot lane in general, try to attack towers as much as possible, break loose mid lane, break loose top lane with some of the bombs and things that come through from Ziggs with that wave clear and the extra tower damage that comes out from him. It's an interesting way to play, to move Wixie and Breezy as a combination around as well. Something to at least pay attention to across the board is, again, I also am curious whether or not Captain Shrimps would be willing to take this in the mid lane. I feel like he's one of the few mid laners who would also be capable of piloting this champion. It's got to be in his pool somewhere because it's just so deep. But we'll see. We'll talk about that later because right now it's almost certainly going to be in the bottom side.
Yeah, you're telling me we got to go full circle at this point. Finally, Ziggs returns back to his home in the mid lane. We can only pray. As more bans do go through, Gwen taking off the map, really focusing on the top lane now. Will be both of these squads. Jace removed, as well as Kennen. One more ban to come out of AOE. It's going to be first pick and counter pick over to C9A.
Interesting. It's like right now we're at like double A or AD, so they're trying to figure out what like AP champions would come about from Faisal, just to kind of make sure that that's going to be pinched more into top lane than it would be into mid lane to allow something a bit more kind of aggressive. We talked about Kiana, we talked about Zed, we talked about some of those champions to come through. Jace and Aurelia taken away from the side of both Speedo and Captain Shrimps. Those feel like Captain Shrimps champions much more than Speedo champions, and that's kind of indicative here as Renekton, one of the more popular champions for Speedo, still flexible to mid lane obviously, but picking champions that are coming into some of the comfort. Now they get their blind pick Renekton with not much response. Faisal has to find something here into the Crocodile.
See if we can find what he was going for. And I mean, in the situation over in the top side, when it comes to Speedo versus Faisal, you got to remember you still got more experience going on the side of Speedo. Even though he's rather new under that name, he did go under the name Lawrence. Spent a lot of time in Collegiate during those times. Faisal still being a rather new member. I believe he started his career just this year when it comes to the pro scene, as Nara is going to be locked in, opting into that matchup. Just hovering Syndra for now. Believe they're going to go for it. AoE, flop it over straight to the Azure.
Okay. We get a very kind of restrained style that's also quite teamfight oriented here from the side of Area of Effect. Usually I'm a bit more accustomed to them breaking open some of these players like Darkwings or Faisal to kind of flex some of their individual skill. Oh my goodness, and they opened him for it right here and right now. Captain Shrimps, in the past, known for how good his Xerath, he and Saranok are basically two of the main ones that we see inside of amateur, collegiate, that kind of space, play this champion more than anything. Here it pops up as the old school counter to the Azir. You see the Azir, you say, it's always a Xerath angle. And right now, I mean, you look at like Gnar, Aphelios is going to be in this one, Lee Sin, Braum. You don't have this massive, easy access into backline. Feels like Xerath is almost untouchable in this one unless you're able to get Gnar, Lee Sin into a dive.
My God, there's so much poke you have to deal with, too. Just imagine you try to come up to a tower siege, and here's just Xerath and Ziggs. Poke after poke, damage after damage. But if you do look on the area effect side, they have a lot of scaling. They have a lot of team fight potential once they are able to get to those late game stages. We know how Azera starts to get. We know how Felios starts to get. So you are going to have that bit of a win condition to try and stretch out this game if you are area of effect.
One of the biggest things, control specifically of the map is going to be important for area of effect, because if you end up getting kind of bottlenecked into some of these positions around neutral objectives, and you have to worry about like the shooting gallery, that's going to be the Xerath and the Ziggs poking you down as much as possible before a team fight starts, that's going to be a problem. That's going to be a really bad issue. And the other problem is when you lose that much health to start with things like the Xerath and the Ziggs before a fight starts, how easy is it for XU to just get reset after reset after reset, just to immediately take RBM, you dive onto somebody else, take someone else, all of a sudden you've got a Gnar or an Azir or an Aphelios in your backline, and there was nothing for you to accomplish in the first place. There's a lot of kind of uninteractable damage from C9 Amateur. That's going to make this game kind of hard for AOE unless they can really force their issue with these 5-on-5s.
Especially if you start getting that lead. There's nothing more painful than a poke composition that has that lead going for them, that they have that econ going on. That damages so much. You get hit by one Xerath Q, one Ziggs bomb. That's all it takes. I forget what game it was. We saw a really late game with King, but gotta hold that thought, because now Breezy under attack has to flash away to be able to stay alive. Now they're focusing their attention onto Wixie. Sketch and RBM with the chase. Sonic Wave does land. Still going to find a little bit more punishment. Saving his time with the flash here. Got to be careful, though. He's burnt way too much time. Sonic Wave not up. Going to take 2 shots for the tower. RBM. That was a really big meme right there, Rebel.
That was a pretty big meme to start off our game here. Mr. Eric. I was really worried there for a minute because Wixie held that flash for a very long time, and I thought Q cooldown was going to come back up for RBM, and he was going to be able to follow under tower, trade first blood away, especially without taking much damage. It ended up being a lot of restraint from RBM right there, because I know he could have hit that Q, he could have killed him and traded the 1-for-1, not wanting to give that gold over to the Ziggs, even to speed himself up. Instead, just going to trade the summoner spells across the board. It is Lee Sin and Aphelios in exchange for just Wixie's flash as well as Breezy. Bot lane might be an area where you can attack now here from the side of AOE.
Man, Rebel, I've never wanted to see a player cam so bad before. I want to see, like, the expressions on RBM's face as I'm going to go for it.
I like to think he's just like, I'm going, and everyone's like, stop. He's just like, no, please, don't do this to us. Don't trade level 1. Sketch streams down there like, do not give him any ability to, like, buy a mana crystal at level 1. Do not give him more mana to punish us on the bottom side. Especially without his flash, it would be miserable. So, again, great restraint from RBM to set up. I also like top side pathing. It should eventually bounce back down to bottom side. It should be able to at least take place maybe on that second clear path. Once he decides to go for a back, he can head down there and try to punish this lack of summoner spells, because Wixie also had to burn TP. That would be a great place to try to find a strike on the map.
Meanwhile, looking at mid lane, one thing I want to ask you, Rebel, is when it comes to these matchups in mid lane where you don't see the champions too much, how much of an impact do you hear it having with these players? Because I know you did a little bit of coaching before over with Maraville, you know, seeing pocket picks like the Xerath. You don't see it as often in competitive.
You don't really. The impact here, most of it is a lot of poke damage into your mid lane. It prevents Azir from kind of entering fights most of the time, unless Darkwings plays very defensively with his health bar. Because usually as Azir, you can play for like Comet, or you can play for Electrocute, and you can go for trading into a lot of like melee matchups or other mages where you got this like range advantage. You can see like Darkwings has gone for Conqueror. This is because there is no way he is out trading Azir in the laning phase. Even with Comet, even with Electrocute, if you're landing those abilities, you're just never going to be able to match the health trades that come through from Xerath. And so Darkwings is like, I am scaling this game. I'm going for the late game Conqueror, attack speed, typical like late game hyper carry Azir, and there's nothing else to be done. It opens up river fights at least a little bit for the side of C9, and it also opens up Captain Shrimps to kind of push some more of the issue.
Trying to burn that flash in the mid lane of Captain Shrimps, but here comes the retaliation from C9 Amateur. They're going to flash right onto Zyko. Zyko forced to bring the flash, able to get away, but the Zenith Blade is going to follow him through, and first blood to Cloud9 Amateur.
The attempted push onto Xerath. The help was dropped a pretty decent distance, but again, he is so far back in this laning phase, it's difficult to try to follow up, especially as the Braum, who has to burn all of the summoner spells just to try to get in the area to slow him down so that there is follow-up from RBM from Darkwings. But again, being that far back made it super difficult, dragged them too far away. Response from C9 says, we're going to cover, make sure the Captain Shrimps is going to have what he wants. This is the difficulty of that laning phase. I almost want to see them abandon this lane. Instead, they try to play to it to break Darkwings out a little bit faster than you normally would. Nice little stun as well. That was about as far a distance as you could possibly get with the Shocking Orb. Was able to set up XU to flash on top and Breezy for the eventual finish here.
And that winner's bite could have made it so much different if he was able to land to get the slow on Captain Shrimp. It could have been a good follow-up there to have First Blood go the way of AOE, but not going to be the case. It's all small things like that that can affect the game very greatly.
That it can. And again, given that resource is burnt early enough, Captain Shrimps, of course, was shoved out, didn't have to burn the flash, so that means that, further aggressive play. Okay, that comes through. It's easier teleporting in just to try to crash this wave so that, Xerath doesn't get permanent control. The fear I've got eventually, again, is this ultimate from Xerath is such a large distance. You can make impacts in fights from basically mid lane or just taking a few steps out. And given the wave clear this champion's going to have after, first item, couple of components come through against the Azir, it's really, really hard for Azir to make an impact in anything unless everyone shows up to a fight all at once. So it should be Captain Shrimps able to take some of this early game pressure, hopefully convert it into more, as Zyko's having a bad day already.
Zyko, a minute ago, we just saw that gray screen come on for you, but he will be able to slide away before Breezy can get him within his grasp. So not another blood going to go on. Instead, just going to back off. But yeah, a lot of bullying going on to Zyko, who's forced to run all the way to the mid lane, take the long way back to the bot.
You can see that Zyko is trying to have an impact on the map. It's super easy for Wixie to shove waves, and that means that Aphelios is usually just catching waves whenever they're crashing into his tower. And so these two bot laners likely will just end up being in solo lanes a fair amount of the time as their supports are roaming a fair amount throughout the game. You'll see Breezy and Zyko out and about on the map. I will say there's not a ton of auto attacking on the bottom side, just because Azir also doesn't count as auto attacks, and so it's more difficult for Braum to make things happen than Breezy without auto attackers like what would be Lee Sin or what would be the likes of the basically any of his auto attackers on his team. So Azir's the only one in mid lane. That's where he's ended up twice, and that person's not stacking your concussive blows. Makes it hard for Zyko to really accomplish much with the roams.
Yeah, definitely rough early game coming in for Zyko. But so far, state of the game, got to look at RBM because he's going straight for the top lane, looking to find Speedo. Lots of damage on the Speedo, but a little bit too afraid to pursue him right now as the Dominus is ticking away. Gives him a little bit of a health boost as he shoves the wave and crashes it over towards Faisal.
Really close to being a very positive play for AoE. The problem is that Narbar just barely not stacked enough. If Faisal steps up to try to stack that as fast as he can, Speedo probably just one combos him all the way down through that mini Gnar without having those kind of base stats to work with. And that's why RBM felt not confident in continuing that play. They had two members there ready to go. But if Gnar steps up and just gets one shot, all of a sudden you got a level 5 Lee Sin into a level 6, what would have been a level 7 with that kill Speedo, with the ultimate on, almost certainly not winning that fight. Instead they just fail. They give up the red buff over to XU, who's had a fantastic early game on this Viego. His lanes doing a lot to help him out. They had that mid lane play with the response. That right there had support from Captain Shrimps and Breezy, and Wixie was kind of roaming into the area in case there was a response. All off the back of that top lane play that didn't come through. You can see C9 Amateur helping their jungler out as much as possible.
That's what you want to see. When you see something happen on one side of the map, you want to see an opposite reaction. You know, what's that whole physics thing? Whole opposite and equal reaction stuff. That's what you want to see in the macro, man. And Cloud9 Amateur already starting up good, being able to try and track where RBM is, respond where RBM is, get their impact on the map. Now you're starting to see some wards be placed on the top side. You do have a ward around the Rift Herald. XU starting to head into that direction. There's a control ward in the river that can spot him out.
I really like also that C9, back when they first started this roster for C9 Amateur, a lot of times they were very aggressive just off the back of having it like a very damage-heavy jungler. XU getting aggressed against here.
Yeah, that ward catching him out. The response coming out of AoE is to chase him down. He's going towards his red buff, but the Sonic Wave goes wide. XU will sidestep it, make it look easy over the wall. The stun will not land. Still looking to get the punish with the poke, but Speedo has now come on the flank. Out comes the bomb. Speedo jumps in, using the Dominus, able to get a lot of damage. Will chase down Darkwings and clip him. Zenith Blade coming out onto Faisal. Faisal has to flash over the wall, but Breezy will not let him get away from this one. Waiting for one more Zenith Blade to catch him, but the Croc has the flank. The Croc will be able to stop him. Speedo will grab another kill. Kill number 2 over on the top side. C9 Amateur looking good.
It's another set of response here from the side of C9 Amateur. Aggression from AOE, attempting to get onto XU, put this Viego in the dirt to start with inside of this game, trying to aggress against him with this Lee Sin, with an invade, and what do? XU plays very defensively, able to get out with his flash, his ultimate combined, stalls enough time for his lanes to show up. This is C9's lanes. They've got the pushing Xerath, they've got Speedo, who's got a bunch of control, and you can see that. Dark Wings runs immediately in, Captain Trip's already in position, Faisal comes with no Narbar because he just came out of Nar. Missing that Q was tragic, and all of a sudden the bot lane, who has had shove most of the game, also gets to show up, and these reinforcements are what's necessary here for the side of C9, supporting that jungle, everything you need. We're going to ignore the fact that, unfortunately, Captain Trimps missed every single ult shot. I'm sorry to have to point it out. Used it as a zoning tool, I suppose, but it doesn't matter, because as long as the support is there and that pressure is on, C9 making this response play is everything they need. Their coach talked about in this off time, a lot of what they've worked on is making sure that they're playing very consistent and not, making these overly aggressive plays very kind of controlled. You can see that time and time again. They are taking these response plays and they're playing extremely clean League of Legends.
It is a beautiful response play, too, because they knew exactly where XE was going to go after that last play, able to read him like a book, having that control ward already aware of him. And then XU just responds the right way to the way AOE choose to play the map. And now, the call for Dragon coming out of AOE as RBM. You start up the Ocean Drake. Full priority, going to be an easy grab for AOE.
Tons off the back of, again, Wixie and Breezy had just left on the bottom side to go support that top side play, and after the top side play, they stayed to make sure top wave was shoved in, punish out Faisal a little bit more, which is what opens up this play to bottom side. This is like the call and response we talked about just a second ago. C9's perfectly fine with this. Like, giving up one dragon at the beginning of the game likely doesn't give AoE too much, especially if you start taking this as your win condition, but you're down gold. What are you going to do when Ziggs has like 3 items and you're like in the pit and he presses ult and 3 of your champions are just half health? There's no fight to be had there, even if you're trying to get onto your 3rd or 4th break or something like that. That's why C9's okay with this. They're cool trading objectives in exchange for gold lead with Rip Herald that can continue to push this on bottom side.
Oh, and here comes the dive. Breezy looking to go deep, has the backup of XU, but Breezy's going to be the first one to fall. Now Sketch follows his teammate RBM under the tower. Will be able to get the double kill, but it's Weeksy coming out ahead. So he'll get the kill on RBM.
Not the cleanest of dives. It does end up being just a 2-for-2 on both sides. Now, Wixie is the benefactor because he's able to stay here and continue to push the tower a little bit more. The whole intention, though, of being on bottom side is XU wanted to use this Rip Herald alongside the Ziggs bomb and the W. That's a tower execute from 3 plates out. They can't make that happen. Sketchstream's super defensive. Look how far back he is when this starts. The flash cleanse gets him away from the Ziggs ultimate. I didn't even recognize that when we first came in. And enough damage to try to drop the Leona before anything else. XU can't also get this reset, and he's trying to play with this tower range as much as possible, doesn't full commit to it. RBM able to kind of zone away from him just far enough, and Wixie can't stay any further. Really, really clean positioning from RBM and Sketchstreams to really drive that home, make sure that that dive does not get anywhere near where C9 wanted from that.
Yeah, so ultimately going even at the end of the day on that last dive. 12 minutes into this, we do have a 1.5k lead going in favor of Cloud9 Amateur. Still a minute and 30 left until those plates do fall. Control been on their side for the most part. They're getting gold going to pretty much every single lane, as well as 2 kills onto Speedo over on that top side.
The double Ludens is what's concerning to me. As the poke and penetration begins here from the side of C9 Amateur with these double AP comps, and they're forcing the issue back into the bottom lane again. They just need a very small amount of chip damage onto this tower. That's what they're going to commit for. There's nothing for Zyko or Sketchstream to accomplish. That's an execute. 2 plates plus the W, all that's necessary. And now C9 can start moving this very powerful bot duo into mid and into top lane with their push. They've got a very powerful Nekken. They've got an insanely powerful Xerath who has constant pushing pressure into Azir. It's difficult to try to drive them out of any specific lane that they want to just walk Ziggs into and take towers away from. They don't have much time on plates, so that means these structures are going to lose a bunch of the health and armor that they would have in terms of resistance. This is not going to be fun for the... I wouldn't want to be any of AoE's outer ring towers here in the next couple of minutes, because they're likely to get some punches coming their way soon.
And C9 Amateur are doing this well. They're setting up a lot of these plays well in advance. You could look at all the vision that's over in the bot side right now that enabled that to be so easy, so safe. Now they're starting to transfer that over towards the top side as you get the roam from Breezy headed towards that top side. Captain Shrimp's not far off as Breezy's able to get the Zenith Blade. Will not find the Solar Flare onto RBM.
Oh.
But, hey, making up for those missed ults earlier. Captain Shrimps is able to find them onto RBM, but the rest of AOE are looking to retaliate. Ember's Divide finds 2 as Breezy goes in once again, goes on to Zyko, but Zyko will take him down 2-0 in favor of AOE as they're able to suddenly turn this game on a dime, taking down the mid laner and the support.
Very well played by the side of AOE. When they can generate 5-on-5 situations, they want to do that as much as possible. If you can cluster everyone on the side of C9 together, that's not where their strength is. Their strength lies when you're in very long lanes where there's a bunch of space to work with, when you've got kind of the terrain working in your favor. This is not one of those situations. They try to make a play onto RBM with the likes of the Xerath, and yes, he drops that health very quickly, but now you've pigeonholed yourself with his Braum ultimate, the Azir ultimate, to get multiple members all at once. You can see the double ultimate, humongous for that, as well as the Lee Sin, who did not die, was able to help continue this play on the side. This is tactical from the side of the AOE squad, knowing that their composition in that 5-on-5 can use this kind of closed off points to their advantage with their CC.
I completely missed that beautiful Dragon's Rage too, able to get the knockman, forcing out the extra flash. So good response out of AOE. This is what we were hoping to see out of them at the end of the day.
It is the responsibility of Captain Shrimps and Wixie to put down poke damage. In situations like that, the responsibility falls to Speedo and XU, and Breezy, of course, to try to zone out RBM, Faisal, Darkwings, because those are the three that are going to try to make an impact by pushing members or splitting the fight apart and letting them focus down one person at a time. I will note one tragic thing. If Sketchstream pulls kills in that fight, this starts to look better, because when you have this 5-on-5, if your Helios is really getting going, it's going to be very painful to have to deal with. However, getting one onto Azir is going to be nice, because again, he's going for that later game scaling as well. Opens up now, unfortunately, the kind of tempo play that comes from all of those resets coming faster off the back of like the kills coming through means C9 AM get to grab this Rift Herald. They're not super concerned with setting up Dragon whatsoever. Cloud breaks up now, and that's being taken, but Rift Herald being dropped on top side is just going to give further gold advantage to the team that's able to siege with just insane power.
So Drake picked up by AOE, going to be Cloud Drake, making this a Mountain Drake map. Meanwhile, C9 Amateur are going to respond over on the top side, taking that turret. He said you're going to feel bad for a lot of those outer turrets. Well, that's turret number 2 falling down for C9 AM. Just needs the mid lane to get the rest of those outers as they start rotating just in that direction.
They do. They're going to put 4 members there as fast as possible. Azir, Starflame's on the bottom side again, trying to pull some additional gold onto the likes of this Azir, but second Rip Herald going to get dropped immediately. This will just be an execute. Just the charge and the Ziggs alone. AoE would need multiple members here. Darkwing's TP is available if they want to try to force something with a great TP ward. It is right there.
It didn't go down, and neither did RBM, almost getting caught out. Breezy couldn't follow up fast enough to tap out Captain Shrimps there. But right there is that tower to falling down. C9 Amateur trying to get closer to it, but AOE are going to play the defense.
But again, I want to talk about it. C9, their coach, they talked about discipline being the one thing that they focused on over the last month and a half, and we really haven't seen them. That is a disciplined play. It is very easy for any squad to be like, we need one auto attack, we need one Ziggs, we need one W, force the issue, get TP'd on, and all of a sudden flip another 5-on-5 and give a bunch of gold back to the side of AoE. They don't do so. They're patient. They can get that tower pretty much anytime they want. If Ziggs is free, has just a free moment, and there's no one in mid lane, throw a W down, you kill that tower. They're not going to worry about it too heavily. They're still up in gold. They still have this insane siege. They don't want to be giving AoE pathways back into a game like this.
Yeah, because that can still be a very nasty 5v5 to have to deal with if AoE are able to get towards that scaling. Now, you're seeing exactly the way you put it. Still trying to shove the mid lane is going to be C9. Waiting for the satchel to go out. Not close enough to the tower, though.
Zyko.
Tower's still going to stand.
He's cracked. He's able to shield that. Oh, that's...
Yeah, getting cracked open is going to be Darkwings. The burn going through. One more tick. Is it enough? No, Darkwings! He'll survive. He gets out.
He's living. That is, that's some... It was very close. I would have been sweating a crazy amount right there if I were Darkwings. Able to get out that force. Thankfully, though, it means that there isn't somebody else to reinforce the mid lane. They're able to kind of shove in. Sketch Streams can't step up too much, so you can at least hang your hat on the fact that you do get that as close as that kill would have been. XC Speedo, double melee into an Azir, really difficult to try to convert, and Wixie an ultimate missed as well during that kind of situation, just to drive him further back as much as possible. As the Siege comp just continues to try to lay siege to these outer ring of towers, they're all down. Now we're on to the inner towers. This is where maybe Faisal and RBM and even Darkwings can start to find some closer angles. If they push too far up without the right vision, that's where you're going to be able to open up some of these game-changing ultimates to set up a 5-on-5. Maybe that's where C9 AM is okay with. They're like, okay, we lose our outer ring. If we keep our vision up in the shallow parts of our jungle when they try to come in for an entrance and they don't have that kind of cover to make sure these flank angles aren't around, maybe that's where we can find some kind of individual outplays.
And C9 AM have been very good about setup in this match so far. A lot of it, we talked about it earlier, towards the bot lane. They put a lot of vision over there, set up, took the tower, started rotating that towards the top side. A lot of vision there, set up, took the tower. One at the mid lane tower, they started putting pressure over on that rotation towards the jungle and top side. Set up, take the tower. It's just been very methodical. It's been very textbook. It's been very spot on for C9 AM.
It has. Again, that discipline, that is not just like blowing smoke. That is 100% C9. This is a changed team. When we saw them kind of first enter, they were prone to making some overly aggressive plays. They looked like a team that got drawn out in the amateur league from a bunch of players that were very talented. They've grown past that and now look like a well-established organization, a well-established team who are making a commitment to ensuring that their play is a lot cleaner. They're not making those same kind of mistakes. They're not making those same kind of over-aggressive tendencies that would have cost them games in the past.
And now with the next Drake spawning in the next 45 seconds, Cloud9 Amateur might look to contest this one and not allow AOE a window back in by giving them that Dragon Soul point. So you're now starting to see that vision established by Cloud9 Amateur as they'll be the first one to the Drake.
They shove so much farther. One of the big things I want to note is, again, Speedo is extremely good on the Camille, also very good on the Renekton. This Renekton got off to a very big lead against the Gnar. Normally, Gnar is going to be okay at this point in the laning phase up against the likes of Renekton, but given just how far ahead Speedo got to start with those 2 kills, it has been difficult for Faisal to kind of just sit there and press against him in that one-on-one matchup in the side lane, and that has caused the side lane to still remain in Renekton's favor. It's not easy to just walk up under tower and solo kill him or something the way that he was able to do earlier, or at least put that pressure on the way that he had in that 2v1 very early on in the game. But Speedo's kind of side lane presence is still being felt by Faisal to this moment, a lot off the back of some of that early resources that was thrown into his pocket.
And speaking of Speedo, he is able to take the recall, finishes an item, takes the teleport back in, and now ready for this fight. If it is to break through between AOE and C9 AM, RBM on the back of the Dragon Pit. Looking to scout out, potentially land a Sonic Wave. Darkwing's waiting there too, as the Emperor's Divide available, if he is to be engaged on, is in that choke as well. So a lot of protection for him, even though he is alone. Now pulling the Drake is going to be AOE to the side, getting the first shots on it, but Sketch is going to back up. Going a little bit deadly here is going to be Speedo.
Oh, yeah.
As he goes over the wall, Darkwings will be safer here, can dash out as Zyko now leading the charge, pushing away C9 AM, but there's the Solar Flare. They're going to go straight for the backline. RBM far too low. He will fall. Emperor's Divide goes out. It's not going to be enough because Darkwings gets slaughtered. Now over the wall, Sketch trying to find more. Speedo will find one. Able to get the slice and dice, but can't get close enough to go after Sketch instead. He'll go after the easy prey. Faisal falls. Weeksy gets the kill. Speedo will not be able to hunt down Sketch Streams. Instead, Sketch is going to try and return the favor to Speedo, but C9 Amateur, they took the fight. They got 4 members of AOE, and they're happy to claim the Drake.
I'm just making sure Sketch Streams isn't going to get run down, because when you've got a Xerath on top of a Leona, there's so much CC to work with. Oh, okay, he didn't charge the Q just barely enough. No. I think Breezy just kills him.
No, that's it. Easy, breezy, beautiful kill going over to Captain Shrimps, and a Drake over to C9 Amateur.
Well, I cannot possibly commend C9 enough for the patience that they just showed. So many teams, especially in solo queue, would see this and just be like, we gotta go for Dragon, get pigeonholed, and end up getting 5-man ulted by RBM or by Darkwings or somebody, and instead they waited for the moment. They baited this kind of corridor fight on the left side behind the Dragon Pit, pull multiple members before a real team fight can ever really show up here, before they can get Sketch Streams really involved fighting anything close to what resembles a 5-on-5 team fight. C9 didn't get themselves into a bad position to try to fight something like this. Instead, they played very far back in the river. They didn't give an immediate engage or a flank angle to work with. I can give them enough props for, again, the discipline that they have talked about. We talked about all game that the coach was talking about. It is on display in just like in spades right now for the side of C9 Amateur.
Yeah, it hasn't been the easiest game, but it's been a very calculated game out of C9 Amateur as they head over towards the Baron pit now, getting a lot of control wards over there. You can see it over on that top side, 2 control wards placed, getting deeper. A lot of those vision wards to spot out where AOE is going to go. And at this point, Breezy doesn't really care. You can start poking him, you can start punishing him, you can try and chase him out of that jungle, but he is going to fight for that vision control, man. I
will say, Baron buff is a horrible idea. Like, their composition with Baron buff, disgusting. Getting that Baron buff is going to be really tough. Ziggs can help taking it and does pretty good with it. Renekton has some okay damage to help with it, but really the only actual Baron taker they've got is Viego. Everyone else, mostly just there for zoning. It feels like they have to win a team fight or poke a bunch of people down, have a numbers advantage to really full commit to that Baron on the side of C9 AM, because their composition is so designed to siege and not really designed to 5-on-5. It does open up. That's always going to be an area.
Breezy!
Oh, sketch stream!
Beautiful solar flare to start off this fight as he gets caught up and locked down.
Okay.
Darkwings will return the favor, but that's an ADC for support right there. C9 AM are happy to take that trade as they continue their siege. Trying to find a little bit more XU, goes over to the side, but Faisal will find the ultimate. Now RBM looking to join on in. 2 members of C9 AM trying to fight the 3 of AOE, but the Emperor's Divide goes out 1 for 1 in the later half of this fight, but chasing him down, the Gator's gonna get his food. He's looking for more as he pops that Q, gets the healing. The Gore Drinker's too damn good. Speedo wants more, he'll get Faisal, and the ace goes through. C9 Amateur get the team fight win.
AOE, they're so close, but no sketch streams. They don't have the damage on their squad to run through Speedo the way that they wanted to. They got XU, they got a great Nord ultimate, and none of it mattered because they just don't have the DPS to win a fight like this. This is the trade to start with. Sketch being gone in exchange for Breezy, especially after everything had blown, is a perfect trade for C9 AM. The thing is, Faisal, I don't even know, he just came kind of out of nowhere with this Norbar transformation. Got both melee characters. Look how long it takes them to even drop these health bars. Speedo feels like he took 0 damage over the course of this entire fight because he is just so strong. Gore Drinker, like you said, Q combined as well, and then the backline, Wixie and Xerath both able to put in a bunch. I thought this was going to be a turning point where maybe Darkwings could do it, but again, you don't have the damage to get through Renekton fast enough. He just out-sustains your front line, and eventually these backliners, this Ziggs, this Xerath, just carry the fight for you as intended.
Man, what a performance out of Speedo right there. Backed up by XU in that last team fight, putting C9 AM in a beautiful position as they have 4 towers down. A strong 6K gold lead, 26 minutes into this. They're looking to start closing this out soon.
They did, and they should, because again, that team fight for being 5,000 gold down at the time, way too close. Way too close for comfort for the side of AOE. Again, if Sketch Dreams is there for that 5-on-5 fight, that is a miserable fight for the side of C9 AM. They might actually lose outright because their frontliners cannot tank enough with the combination of Azir and the Aphelios putting out the damage. And again, this is still a composition that has a very tough time taking Baron, which means they couldn't even punish off the back of that. If that's ADC in mid, maybe they can. They can't do it here. Instead, they're going to continue to siege, move lane to lane, just chip away at some of these inner towers as they slowly kind of push this lead further and further ahead, trying to wait out the side of AOE, trying to get them impatient, find these picks, and then get themselves these objectives.
You could tell C9 AM are really thinking about this Baron, but as you said, they just don't have the damage to take it in a really efficient manner. Instead, the pings are going over towards Dragon, looking to get their second Drake of the game. Will be C9 AM, 15 seconds until that spawns. You do have Faisal waiting in the wings. He has quite a bit of Narbar to work with if a team fight were to break out.
He does. Wanting to stay as high as he can, just because, again, these neutral objectives, standing the hit is just nothing that should be done from the side of C9 AM. Them kind of keeping their lanes pushed as far as possible instead of sitting in river competing is the best way to do this, and that's what happened right here. Mid lane got shoved out. Bot lane is in an even state, but you don't really have all the members you need here to compete the way you did. on the previous one for AOE, so instead it's just going to go down to C9 AM. They have bought themselves 10 minutes with the first 2 dragons they've taken, so you don't have that Mountain Soul kind of advantage for at least until 37 minutes into the game, which is going to take us into very late game territory. C9 AM, their composition has a difficulty really pushing this one home without finding some of these generated picks, without really kind of pushing the issue and finding something. That was okay. Captain Shrimp's finding use of his ultimate, trying to steal that blue buff away from Darkwings. Can't quite get it though, unfortunately.
That'll be up soon enough. Yeah, this is the danger territory now as we get later and later into this game. If you are able to get Baron buff for C9 AM, it's pretty much a done deal. It's going to be very hard to survive that level of siege.
It is, which is why, like, AOE, I feel like they just need to control as much as possible that left quadrant that they've got when you're like on their base towards their blue side. If they can control that quadrant, they can always make an approach towards the Baron buff as much as possible. Keeping mid lane pushed out also going to be a necessity. That's why you're going to see sketch streams more often than not in mid lane as far as possible. Keep your eyes also on just kind of stray wards here and there. When you've got a Ziggs ultimate and you've got a Xerath ultimate, it is a danger to walk anywhere on the map that they've got vision, just because there's always a possibility that he just pops you with 2 shots, you're down to 10% health, and all of a sudden you have to back, and you have driven them out of the possibility of going for a Baron buff at any point. So there's that to pay attention to as well. So Zyko is going to get tested here. His ability to just try to remove these wards and make sure there's none of that clear vision onto his carries. It's like playing Dance Dance Revolution right now, trying to get around some of these wards that are down in the jungle.
It's terrifying. He tries to go up, and there's a big man with the sword looking to cut you down. Big shield in your face as well. Pretty much the rest of C9 AM are really, really proactive when it comes to vision control. So definitely a lot on the shoulders of Zyko to try and hold that down to get AOE in a position where they can come back, because their composition, it is a comebackable composition to say the least, and that's what they're going to try and find right now, is to go right after Wixie. They're going to get the Glacial Fissure and the knock-up! Sketch will grab the kill, but there is the ultimate coming out of Faisal. Looking to find more. It's going to be AOE as they try and get Speedo, but the Gore Trick of the hill, it is there, and down will go Sketch. XU is going to show up. A new challenger has appeared as the ultimate's going to get popped by Captain Shrimps looking for the backline. He will find Zyko. And C9 AM, this is a fight they should not have won, but they do. They come back and they send them right to the gutter.
That they do. The Guardian Angel for the likes of Speedo alongside that Gore Drinker in the queue keeps him alive for so long in this fight. Reinforcements get to show up. And worst case scenario, if you're just hanging around waiting to try to pick off Speedo on the way back through the way you normally would, that sets up Captain Shrimps to be able to do a bunch of this damage from a very long range. Now he and XU can just kind of solo this Baron buff. They've got mid push to be able to work in here. They've got TP. This is just going to be a 5-on-5. Breezy's on the back. They're going to find RBM.
Not knowing that he was waiting in the bush. Breezy, so sneaky, taking down the jungler. Now this is going to be brutal right now. Captain Shrimp's trying to get away as Darkwings thought he could find a little bit of prey on the side. The Solar Flare goes out, only going to find the slow onto Faisal. Darkwings running away with his partner as the bomb goes out. Low health bars, but a good position for C9 AM.
It is. The more time you burn away from C9 AM hit, the less that they have the ability to go to Baron. They started at Baron and almost were capable of taking it. This all started way back here. This is where we're starting at right now, where Darkwings almost gets picked off, force the flash away. This all kind of prompts that mid lane fight that comes through. But again, this is the point I'm talking about. Look how ridiculously strong Speedo is at this point with the Renekton. He logged 50% of his health bar right there. They still haven't burnt his Guardian. He gets to kill Sketch Streams just by using his AoE and moving through this team all at once. And this sets up Captain Shrimps with his Xerath to pick off health bars. Darkwings takes a shot. Zyko takes enough to be able to go down. Now you don't have more than member. You don't have enough members to really compete in a fight like this. All you've got is Darkwings left for real DPS. They go over to Baron. Again, there's only real 2 members that actually matter. Captain Shrimps stayed in mid lane to continue that push. And thankfully, the disruption was enough to prevent them from taking that Baron buff. But this is a difficulty you have to deal with. This Renekton has become a real problem.
Oh my god! Oh my god! Okay. Almost taking it, got him! Captain Shrimps, he don't need no team fight, he don't need no engage, he'll just press R, get vision, take down Sketch, and now this is a beautiful spot for C9 AM to be as they continue to go down the mid lane and start up a siege.
Sketch had the audacity to show on the map when his Xerath is around.
How dare he!
Ultimate and he's just dead. Yeah, don't you show on my mini-map. That's my mini-map. I don't want you polluting it with your nonsense. as they just get to bear down in mid lane now. Sketch streams again, one of these main team fighters, even worse, Darkwings is on the side lane taking that tower, which prompts this mid lane siege. They pull inhibitor. It's not the biggest deal in the world. Again, this composition has a really tough time trying to close things out. This makes that job a ton easier though, because if they win even one fight, they pull 3 members off the side of AOE. All of a sudden, C9, even with the double mage, probably has the firepower to just walk down the base. This is their opening that they've been able to work with, as well as third Dragon now in their favor. The time's kind of like ticking away for AOE. They're going to try to force a Baron here, but I don't think it's going to be fast enough.
Yeah, they take Baron significantly
Very
fast, but C9 AM are already in position to deal with it. Dragon's not going to get taken. Baron will be reset. AOE really trying to show their cards right here. They don't have much left they can really do, and this is the desperation play.
I do love it though, because again, XG is one of the main team fighters.
Oh, here comes the Dark Wings. He's able to get Emperor's Divide onto Speedo, but Speedo will get out once again. RBM over the wall. Doesn't realize Speedo's in that bush. Speedo will be able to back off. That's still a busted inhib in the mid lane though, so AOE got to work fast.
They do, and they're going to go right back to Baron buff because Speedo isn't here, doesn't have a really great way, and his Q is like one way that he can come back, does have TP readily available for this. This isn't a position you want to be in as AoE because, again, Shrimps can just throw in damage, Wixie can just throw in damage, and that's what they're doing right now. They pull off immediately once the Xerath ultimate is pulled. TP is going to be back in. I almost would have loved to see Speedo just pull, like, teleport into the mid lane minion and go for the end of the game, because, like, they would have been difficult to pull out of this situation from the side of AoE. Instead, they're just equalized. Now a fight might be turned for the side of C9 AM, trying to look to close this one, maybe.
Solar Flare goes out. It's on to Darkwings, but no follow-up to be had. And Rebel, I want to bring to your attention that Captain Shrimps only hit 2 of those, and it had a third left on the health bar of Sketch Streams. That's all it takes. You combo that with the Death Bomb, it is over. It is lights out for any carry on the side of AoE. As RBM, here's the last stand. Can you get the Baron still?
No, if you can, he's so far away, he can't even get into the pit right now.
He's getting it, he got the steal! RBM steals the Baron, he hops over the wall, trying to find the escape. Breezy will fall. AoE, they're going to try and surmount the comeback right now. Glacial Fisher goes out, going right after Speedo. Speedo, you got nowhere to go, brother! Into the resurrection, thanks to the Guardian Angel, but the Wandering Arms, they await him. Lawrence will fall. A shutdown onto Sketch Streams and the comeback for AoE.
I thought their time was burnt. I thought they waited way too long, and that mid-wave has shoved so far and ended up doing a bunch of damage, taking one of their Nexus towers. I thought that was going to be it. The hero play from RBM. Look at this vision toggle. Look at his ability to try to get into this pit. And Breezy tries to zone as hard as he can. This is a miracle take from this Lee Sin to be able to snag this one away at the last possible second. Smite came out too early. RBM grabs it, and now this team, that canteen fight, stuck in a pit. They lose multiple members off the back of it. This is what AoE has been waiting for the whole game. It has taken this long for C9 to make a slip up, but the second that this gets pulled and they don't have complete control, immediately AoE is able to punish.
And on the back of that as well, AoE picking up more, able to grab a Drake. As C9 Amateur only come on the back end of that. They cannot find the counter engage onto AoE, who are taking so much off the Rift right now.
This lead has been evaporated to 3K,
wow,
as well as the dragon that never got taken. XU didn't commit to taking that dragon, and because it wasn't, because he needed to keep things kind of question mark, because like if he shows that he took dragon, they full commit to Baron, and they end up losing it. So AoE able to win that tug of war in the end, then they snag now their third dragon and Baron buff. They close this gold gap, they get a bunch of kind of extra resources around the map to play with now, a bit more breathing room inside of this game, and they can pressure for what would be a fourth dragon fight. Double Mountain Drake alongside the soul that comes about really does take the edge off when these Xerath ultimates start coming in. Sketch Streams is probably like, guys, we gotta get this. I need to really desperately take one more Xerath shot now.
And look at the itemization coming out from the side of AoE's carries. When you have the Azir, when you have the Aphelios, they're hitting their critical points. They're hitting the points where they are going to be massive threats in these next team fights. If you cannot find the poke for C9 Amateur, you are done in a team fight. All of that poke that we need to see out of Xerath and Ziggs, it needs to come in quite quickly before AoE can pull the trigger.
Wits End also into the inventory of sketch streams. He's feeling the effects of this build right now. He's wanting to make sure. It is a really good item, don't get me wrong. You just don't oftentimes see it on an Aphelios, but
it's trauma.
Desperately needs it. It's strong, it's good, it's going to give him attack speed and attack damage and move speed too. Perfect item for the opportunity. I'm not criticizing Sketch at all, but like that's the desperation we're at right now. It's got to be a Wits End Aphelios just so he doesn't get popped immediately by all this poke damage that comes out. This is giving them a fighting chance. They might have bought themselves the time to come back in this game.
Ooh, it's got to be very careful, though, because any misstep from AoE can cost them big. We saw what happened before with Captain Trips burning the ultimate and Wixie able to follow it up. That is all it takes for you to lose someone. Don't show up on my mini-map, Sketch Streams.
No, don't show up. Darkwings is in the same boat as well, especially because Darkwings has like only the Merc Treads. He's probably taking almost, if not true damage from all this magic. It'll probably take 2 shots to just kill him off. Darkwings has been playing so much side lane Azir though. When you have control mages, like it's a very rare opportunity because Azir usually cannot side lane at all. That's just not what he's intended to do. But against other like control, especially siege mages, what is he gonna do? Step into you? You're just gonna beat him down because you've got way more DPS. You've got closing speed to work with. You're not gonna poke him out in a long lane like that. It's just not gonna happen. And so Darkwings has been pulling out some of the side lane towers, giving himself more gold. That's what's gotten him into this situation, to a very positive situation, pulling some of that extra gold. And now he's sitting into like a Void Staff, gonna have Rabadon soon enough as well. Gonna become this DPS beast here for the side of AoE, alongside this very powerful Aphelios that's sitting on that near 5 item mark himself.
And you can see C9 AM really paying respect to Faisal. He was maxed out of the Gnar bar, one more hit, would have went to the Mega Gnar, and that would have been the engage button for AoE. So instantly taking that recall, not going to bite off more than they can chew. Playing this very smart, as the reset does come in from C9 AM. But AoE, what a breath of life that they've gotten in the last couple of minutes in this game. And really, I do feel like it's going to come down to the next minute and 30 seconds when that dragon does spawn.
It's gonna be difficult. C9 has really good warding on bottom side right now. You can see both entrances kind of to the interior jungle outside of the lane have been covered, as well as that bottom tribe rush that's been covered by the ward on bottom side by C9 AM, so they've got more than enough. And their pushing power is enough to pretty much set any lane where they want it to be. That's why you see Wixie in this mid lane. One other thing, just to note, one interaction I think is going to be pivotal to keep track of. It's hilarious to talk about how Xerath is just able to pretty much annihilate, or Wixie is able to annihilate these carries. The person I want to see them all honestly start tanking is Faisal, because they can mess with his Gnar bar. If they can get him to Gnar out preemptive to a fight by putting damage into him, that's going to change everything for AoE. If they don't have a big Gnar to be able to work their way into like a pit with, and to be able to pressure this 5-on-5 with, that's potential. That's something I think C9 needs to kind of think about here, is the potential of throwing this poke damage instead of into the carries, into Faisal. Because if they have no Mega Gnar, they don't really have an easily accessible frontliner to just throw a body into the front line and throw this big ultimate to be able to change things up. And that responsibility falls to RBM, who dies almost instantly. He's not super tanky. He's got the stopwatch, but that's about it. And Zyko can't do that either. It just allows this through damage to really punch this team very hard, denies AoE their access.
And going after XU. XU gets caught out. Out goes the Death Bomb. RBM goes deep. He will burn the Guardian Angel as he goes golden to buy time. Out comes the Glacial Fisher. 1 kill down. AoE able to find it. Are they going to back off now? They don't feel confident. Look at the health bars, a little bit too low. So C9 Amateur, they notice the Drake's up. They're the ones who can pressure for it now as they start heading into that direction. Speedo, a mispress, accidentally burning his stopwatch. That is a resource burnt as RBM goes over the wall, just teasing the dragon for the time being. C9 AM looking to find more of that poke, and Zyko is feeling it. Sonic Wave not going to land. Speedo going deeper. RBM over the wall. Zyko gonna follow as well. Zyko so low. Lower and lower. Gets this Drake, and RBM is gonna be able to secure it. Drake over. Now Faisal will get the wallop. Gets the stun. Onto Speedo. Going deep is gonna be RBM. He tries to find Captain Shrimps. Can't seem to get it. Stepping away from the solar flare. A double kill for Darkwings as Shrimps and Breezy forced to run underneath their tower. AoE, they're making the comeback, Dean.
They've turned it completely around in this game. Eric XU, he's been able to get brought down immediately. And while they took a bunch of poke damage for it, his inability to be there for the dragon fight means there's no smite, so they're not competitive for it. And that's why, even with low health bars, the side of AOE was able to hang around and take that dragon. The wide angle flank as well from Darkwings pinched off such an avenue of escape, and his ability to close into the lane where they had to move through mid made it so easy for this Azir to put damage into backline. Look at that gold advantage, Eric. We were sitting down 10,000 at one point. We're down to 1,000. This is what we're talking about. With no XU around, there's no smite. That's why RBM kind of gets to poke his nose into this territory, even though, look, these health bars, there's no way in most situations would you be able to do something like this.
And the thing was, Cloud9 Amateur looked so good early on in this game, but here comes another fight looking for Breezy, able to get the autos on the Breezy. Sketch doesn't care, he's gonna flash forward, doesn't give a good goddamn as he heads towards the mid lane now, and the rest of AOE starting up this siege. Finally, that tier 1 gonna go down. They're gonna continue though, they are not done. They got power, they got itemization, they got the builds, but here comes the pain. Captain Shrimps and Wixie can still bring it, but so can Darkwings over the wall with the soldiers getting a good chunk into the mage duo of C9 Amateur. Unable to complete the siege just yet. It's going to be AOE, but you got Faisal in the bot lane looking to find one of his own.
So another problem that occurs here is the counter siege for the side of AOE is being supplanted by Baron buff right now, which is why they're able to bring down multiple turrets at once, and like they probably are going to be able to grab 2 inhibitors. But again, closing this game out is going to be really difficult into a team that has this much poke damage. While you're taking inhibitors, if they can land any, it's going to be hard for you to actually consistently pull through this game. And I like that they're pulling out of this situation with the double inhibitor down. Yes, you've got good wave clear with the Xerath and the Ziggs, but it's still going to take time for them to be able to set anything around this dragon. And the next one is Elder Drake, and it's going to be down. Like these inhibitors are going to make it super easy to set up for the likes of that objective that's going to be coming up soon enough. I feel as though we're in for even probably a 15-minute game here, Mr. Eric, which is not expected. We're picking up all the extra time that unfortunately Kangas and Cubby missed yesterday, apparently, but at very minimum, this game is exciting to the very end just because of the way these two compositions interact and how difficult it is for AOE to get on top, but if they do, they just win every fight.
Hey, I'm happy to start off LCS Proving Grounds day number 2 with the Slobber Knocker right out of the gates. That is what AOE are bringing right now. They're starting to set up towards the top side. They have inhibitors down in the mid lane as well as the bot lane, so no more focus towards those lanes, so super minions will drive themselves home. Towards the top side will be AOE. Still got a while before we get those neutrals back up. 3 minutes 30 seconds before Baron, 2 minutes 50 seconds before Elder.
We're in like the calm before the storm because we know that those objectives are going to be massive on both sides, especially coming together at like 30 seconds before. I don't know if it's possible for AOE to be able to like just straight up snag both, and so it's a competition of like, this is a very rare opportunity where it's like, okay, usually you would take Elder Drake over top of Baron in any situation this late just because of how powerful of a buff it is, but I don't know if you can even use Elder Drake into a team with a Xerath and a Ziggs, and if they've got Baron, you've got to work through their minions, and it's so much harder that damage is going to stick pretty much no matter what. It doesn't matter if you have Elder Drake, if you're getting chomped down 1,000 health. What just happened to
He did not need the minions. We'll just take it out with the autos himself. Here comes the solar flare, but it's only going to be used defensively, making sure Zyko can't get into that. One more inhibitor remains. It is not long for this world. Now C9 Amateur, they're filling it. They're going to go for the engage. Out comes the bomb. A lot of damage going through. Faisal will get a double on his ultimate, but still looking for retaliation is going to be XU. XU trying to get more, but he's far too low. Has to back off, and instantly blown up is going to be Breezy. Low health bars for AOE, though. I'm not sure they can close it out right this minute. Darkwing starting to back off. RBM, oh so low. Zyko, oh so low. Sketch would have to pull it out big time to be able to close this out right now. As the Empress of Ice is going to go out to protect Darkwings. More damage to go through. XU is going to be resurrecting, and this is the game right here. AOE, they bring it back in C9 Amateur.
Oh, I thought we were going to a full 50 minutes and we were going to go the Elder Drake, but we just do not. AOE has the ability to force in those fights. Again, it was another opportunity where C9, it is so hard to find a meaningful engagement where you can really put your damage into the 5 members, and like XU just, again, he tries to force something into this team, having that Guardian Angel up. His team can't quite put the damage in, and at that point, your 5-on-5 is just never going to work here. C9, first 30 minutes of the game, incredible. AOE hangs on long enough to really make it competitive. Stuck around for those neutral objectives, saying, we can still do this. pull out game number 1.
And you could tell that Cloud9 Amateur were trying to still do that strategy. They were trying to think out their plays. They're trying to be calculated about it. But the thing was, AOE were pressing the momentum way too fast for Cloud9 to be able to formulate these plans. And it was just hectic. It was chaotic looking at everything that went down. I still don't know how AOE came back right after that steal that came out of RBM, which, by the way, that steal was so beautiful and so pivotal to this comeback being a success.
Absolutely. That steal probably actually is what kind of springboarded them, not only in terms of like game flow, but in comms and stuff. When you think about that kind of thing, a Baron steal like that has got to give you an unreal amount of confidence and an unreal amount of drive to be able to close out a game like that. I also want to give massive props. We barely talked about Faisal. Faisal in the side lane was often off camera, but he like split push into like a Nexus tower at that last play. He's what drove them back into that top corner of their base and just kind of pigeonholed them, and then also found like 3, 4, 5 amazing Gnar ultimates and a 5-on-5 against a team that gets to sit so far back. Creative flanks from the side of Faisal. Insane stuff from him as well. I don't want to leave him out of the discussion just because I think he had a fantastic game. The entirety of the game was fantastic for our game 1. I don't know how these other games are going to be able to compete, because that was just a banger and a half.
That was a banger, and we'll have to see if the other games can live up to that hype, because we're going to throw it over a short break. When we return, we'll get into game number 2 of Cloud9 Amateur versus Area of Effect Esports. Welcome back, everyone, to the LCS Proving Grounds, and you wanted a war? Well, we got one right out the gates. Cloud9 Amateur, Area of Effect Esports, game number 1, they win at it, Rebel Fox.
It was a 48-minute slugfest between the two of these teams. C9 AM, they bust out a double Siege Mage composition and somehow end up getting outscaled by the side of AOE, which is just astonishing. That is not to discount at all the early game that they had, though, man. We talked about it a little bit. Speedo, insane to start this game, but also the pathing of XU, the support he got from his lanes, really was the defining moments here. This jungle control that they had with the combination of Diego and every one of these champions being there constantly to help in that kind of resistance, it was kind of what led to this early, really heavy dominance that was held from C9.
Yeah, we saw so much beauty when it came to that early game. It's a shame we got to the position that we did when it came to the late game, because look at a lot of these plays that did come out from C9. Look at how they played that early game, and then look at how it all crumbled. It was a lot of patience coming out from AOE, and I think one of the lanes you would see no greater patience was over with Sketch in the bot lane.
Yeah, both sets of bot laners did amazing stuff between the two of them. It was patience, worlds and beyond from AoE, just getting battered by this double Siege Mage. And we also want to give a ton of props over to the side of Breezy. That ultimate right there, indicative of all being the primary engage for this team. Yes, they had Speedo, who's able to frontline really well. When it came to picking, trying to set up plays for these Siege Mages, there was nobody better than Breezy on the likes of this Leona. This came back and forth a ton of times. This is a great moment just to show, highlight what it is that we're talking about. But man, Breezy made this job a lot easier to start off this game for the side of the Xerath and the Ziggs.
Yeah, looking at these replays, it feels like we're looking over a C9 Amateur win with how dominant that early game was. And moments like this that came out of Speedo, where he just would not die. The Gore Drinker, the Q, the Guardian Angel, all used together to make it so hard for AoE to be able to close out, get the kills, and get out.
Both top laners had amazing performances. Speedo on the front half of the game was just like obscenely strong. It wasn't until this turning point that things really started to flip in the opposite direction, all off the back of this insane steal. Again, blind pretty much throughout the entirety. I want to see where the smite came in here. I don't know if that was it. I don't even know if the smite ever even came through from the side of XU. It was just a very nice play from the side of RVM. But then to punish afterwards with this play was also quite nice. But the big thing at this point also, this was really the point in the game where Speedo stopped being this kind of like raid boss, unkillable like monster. And this is where Faisal's side laning, where also like Darkwing's side laning, but big props to Faisal, mostly because his side laning and then his ultimates as the likes of this Gnar really came to fruition. This was a great example of it. It allowed Darkwings to get that massive flank. And this final one, of course, setting up the team fight that wins them the game.
Man, Rebel, and you could see that C9AM were really thinking about these plays. They were still trying to be as calculated as they were in the first 25 minutes of it, but they took way too long. AoE were faster to the trigger, they were hungrier, and they were quick on trying to bring an end to this game once we got towards these later stages, and once they were able to make this comeback. You can see right here in this final bit, they did not play around. They were in and out and only played it carefully, only looked to finish out the game when they knew they could end it.
It's one of these situations where like a different team would have likely pulled out of that situation just to keep it very high percentage. They would have wanted to be like, okay, we've been winning team fights. We try to win a team fight around these next objectives, and we've taken the gold lead. This is our game one way or another. That is ferocity coming out from the side of AoE saying, okay, we are going to pull right now. That sounds like a Darkwing's call in my mind. That seems like something he would be like, all right, pull, we're doing this now. I don't know if that's the case, but that just seems like something that he would be shouting, especially given the fact that he was the one on the Nexus first. So I'll attribute him that. If he wants to yell at me, that's fine. But still, again, that unceasing aggression to try to find that 5-on-5 time and time and time again, never really also losing every single member on their team. I don't know if they were aced one time in the entirety of the game, maybe once or twice, I'm not exactly sure, but oftentimes, like, even though they were getting bullied, the resilience was there. They kept their composure, and they're able to take this into a win. Very, very incredible stuff from AoE side.
Yeah, very incredible win. Incredible with the way they played the side lanes as well. Faisal, I do want to give him a big shout out because this is a relatively new player. He's only had a couple of short-term stints with a lot of other orgs, but over the last 4 months, he's been really starting to find his stride, and you can see it because he plays for his team in that one. Being able to play the side lanes along with Darkwings is what really gave Area of Effect the edge to be able to close that out.
Yeah, being able to close off a lot of portions of the map, being able to put pressure across the map without really losing too much was huge in that game. There was like slow little bits of gold that were kind of still trickling in from side waves, from towers being taken, from the combination of the Inar and Azir that really did help that. And I agree with you. Faisal was like a question mark to me coming out when we first like heard of this team. I didn't really know much about him. I heard a ton about how good he could be, and I was just like not sold on it. Over the last 4 months though, that really has come to fruition. We've seen Faisal develop into an amazing top laner, and that was one of the perfect displays of just how talented he can be.
So now I'm curious how the draft is going to go in the next game, because when it comes to this next game, we saw how game number 1 went. It was complete dominance out of C9 Amateur. It feels like they don't need to change too much other than just how they approach the game towards the end, towards the late game when they are trying to close this off.
I will say, oftentimes when I talk to coaches and they're just like spitting out like gasconade of just like this weird boisterous confidence about like what it is that their team has been doing, oftentimes it's like, we're doing great, we've developed well, we're going to beat everybody. Like the teams that I talked to were very direct about what they improved, and I loved what C9 did. They have had struggles in previous games. One of the big ones I think about was back in last split in Challengers Uprising. They lost, I think you were actually covering the game, it was C9 against Revival, and they were down 12k and Revival came back. Games like that come to mind as well. Being able to close some of these later games, they have to find somebody who's able to be kind of like the late game weapon that they can use. Oftentimes that's Wixie. That's why we didn't really want to see the Ziggs. While it was a mean composition to have to deal with very early, if you had something like Ezreal in that later stages, maybe they can throw punches back inside of the team fights. I expect an adaptation like that to come through. If they can consistently use something like an Ezreal and also support XU the way that they did, I anticipate this game's going to look a lot cleaner for them.
But this does worry me for C9AM, just because of the trends we've seen from AOE when they have played in previous tournament. EGL is one that pops out right away, because that was a tournament where we saw EGP really take it to AOE. 2 games down right from the get-go in a best-of-5, and a reverse sweep comes out of AOE Esports. They are a team that can adapt, that can improve, that can be put on the spot, that can be put under pressure, and come back from these situations. Right now, we just saw that in a live game itself. What if they do have that adaptation once we head into the draft, once we head into the next game, and they are able to clean up that early game? I do have my worries for C9AM.
The thing about AoE is it feels like they do not bleed out the way that other teams do. A lot of teams, when you take out 4k gold, like they just like eventually lose. It feels like AoE has never really been a team that's like, if you get them down to 4k, they're not going to fight back. Like they might lose harder, but they're not just going to lose from a slow trickle down. They're not going to slowly lose a game or anything like that.
Well, we'll see if C9AM can take it, or if AoE are just going to take a quick 2-0. Draft is ready. Game number 2 will now be going underway.
Oh,
now,
I'm excited to
see. For C9AM.
We get that, which is a very different thing. I doubt we get to see Xerath, unfortunately, because that is a much more red side pick, so there's that to talk about at least. However, now you've got the potential for power picks and things to begin off the drafting phase, so we get to see the chance of that. And it's actually C9 that ban away. I think we have players swapped on the wrong sides, unless we have kept sides. We just got to iron that out. But if the ban is, of course, on blue side, then I'm anticipating Area of Effect is still on blue side for this one, just because we see that one coming through on that side.
Yeah, we'll get those sorted out soon enough. But so far, the same bans as Twisted Fate is taken away, as well as LeBlanc. That was the second ban. Over on the side of AoE last time, if they are on the same side. Maybe just do the salty run back. We're already halfway there. You got the fresh ban coming in. If I was C9AM, I would do a salty run back.
I mean, I'm always down to see more Xerath. I have no problems with that whatsoever. Again, I think if they were going to do a salty run back, the only thing I would change is the Ziggs. I think I would change the Ziggs to something else, just to give Wixie something very powerful. If you've got a 48-minute Jinx, that game is so much harder to play if you're on the side of AoE, just because you have Jinx rockets constantly barraging you. If you don't hit the Gnar ultimate on Jinx, she just shreds through everybody on your team, and it becomes difficult. We still don't have discrepancies in terms of the bans yet. This is where something interesting could happen, only because Thresh was third ban. They take out Trundle. They're sticking with it. The gun bans are exactly the same.
Salty run back. Are you ready for it? C9AM.
Yes.
They want to take it home. We'll see what that first pick is going to be. The Lee Sin.
Maybe.
So far, I'm still curious who's on what side though, because
I'm assuming it's just the top that's mixed up, because now players are on the same side. And again, if you're banning Twisted Fate, that's not really too much of a Dark Swings champion. That's much more of a Captain Shrimp champion. I'm just assuming this is right. So it's just the names that are swapped on the top. Area of Effect is on blue side. C9AM is of course on that red side once again.
So, I mean, when we did see the run back, we saw it the first time, it was Viego around this point. What else did they grab at this?
It was Viego and Ziggs. Was that what they
Viego and
grabbed here?
Ziggs, yeah.
I think that was what happened here. No, it was Viego Leona. That's right.
Oh, man. Oh,
they're doing it.
They're doing it.
Please don't give us another 48-minute game with a Xerath and a Ziggs. Okay, this is even the same hovering, guys. Like, you're trolling us now. They even did the Lulu and the Yumi in the previous game.
Just trolling us out here. I don't know. Are we going to see a Phalios, Braum, Zer, Nar? Hey, we're switched back over. So we do have the same side when it came to selection.
Yes, we do.
So we do have the potential for the salty run back.
There we go. Okay.
Dang it.
Yeah, no Aurelia this time being banned out from either side. Also, the Kennen got through. I oftentimes attribute Faisal to being somebody who plays a bit more like frontline type stuff and more supportive type stuff. Kennen popping into the meta, he's one of my favorite characters from back in the day. I used to play him as a mid laner all the time. Popping back in, it's one of my favorite things to see just because, again, the harassment you can put onto opposing top laner makes it miserable because of your range, and also team fighting. Insane for the Kennen when you're able to get a solid flank angle. In Faisal, how many times do we see his Gnar go into a team fight and just go absolutely crazy? This is the only mid laner in Amateur that will play Gangplank mid. I'm just going to alert you of this fact. I doubt it, because we do see the Kennen, and maybe that's a matchup that's preferred for Speedo. This is also the patch where that Q got nerfed and became a ranged auto attack, so you don't have that like grasp spam currently, but considerations aside, a lot more damage on barrels into the later stages of the game. I'm just keeping that on my the back of my brain right now, because I'm like, Captain Shrimps wants it. I would love to see Gangplank mid once again, and he's the only person. I got cheated of it last time it got picked by him, because the game got reset, so...
I would definitely love to see it. I mean, we were talking about it at the very start of this, about how diverse Captain Shrimps is, how many champions he's played in EGL alone in the round robin. 8 games, he only played 1 champion twice, and that was Galio, so 7 different champions in 8 games. He will pull out anything of that magical hat of his.
He's got a whole sea of champions with which to pick from, and of those, he picks the pirate.
Whole planet.
It seems like some irony to me, but... Who would you say? We do actually also don't get the salty run back. We didn't talk about that at all. We do have insanely powerful lanes, though, from AOE. Look, like the Aurelia, the Kennen are both particularly good laners, and they're very good at team fighting as well. So they've kept that. Their CC is a bit lower than what we saw in the previous game, so there's that to talk about, as well as the range is also quite a bit lower. So Gangplank feels extremely good into this comp, just because, again, Kennen's got to throw his body into a team with the ultimate. Aurelia's got to do the exact same thing. Lee Sin's got to do the exact same thing with his Q. So it's easy to get barrels, and especially with Crit Plank being very powerful, especially after this patch, things could get dicey if you're playing on top of a powerful Gangplank.
Yeah, it always gets terrifying when you get towards that late stage. Gangplank just throws down the barrel, one pops, and there goes most of your health bar, but... Oh, Dean, I see the face, I see the expression, and I also see Singed locked in for C9 AM.
Lawrence, you madman. You are... This is awesome. So this is...
Lawrence, man.
I'm very curious what exactly the strategy is here with the likes of this Singed. Only because into a Kennen, I don't know how good that matchup is. Feels like something that could be aggressed against. And with the low range, it's very difficult to just like run down a Singed. But this is not something people are playing very commonly. I think Singe got some buffs in the recent patches, so it did make him a lot different. Although I think the Grievous Wounds is 11-18, so we don't quite have that yet when he uses the ultimate. So this is just Speedo saying, I'm comfortable with the Singed into Aurelia and or Kennen, depending on where they decide to put those champions. I can give some respects, Mr. Lawrence. If you're able to make this work, props to you.
Just wait. He's gonna fool us all, and it's gonna be a Captain Shrimps champion, and we're gonna see Singe mid, you know. Just
mid lane. You can't even proxy on mid lane. He's just like sitting between the towers in the mid lane, being able to do that kind of thing. They have a really powerful forward fighting comp, though. Look at that. You got Aurelia, Kennen, and Rakan to just throw their bodies in, as well as Lee Sin. And then Vayne is just there to pick up the pieces of whoever's left after the fight is continued. We talked about this as well. Xayah got a bunch of buffs at 11-17. Yeah. Already was peeking her head into the meta. Very powerful champion for being able to exploit early. Now up against her partner, of course, Rakan on the opposite side. I think you're fine with that because you've got Leona in your own hands. It is a wonky composition.
Keep it right there. Keep it right there. Keep it right there.
Their expectation, expectation was the Aurelia. I was thinking maybe they're like, okay, if they're anticipating Aurelia in the top lane, maybe that's where the Singe is going to go.
They're keeping the Singed in the mid
still,
lane.
You still have the possibility.
Dean, they're doing it.
It might not be Singed mid. It might be Singed top lane, but it's just Captain Shrimps is playing it because Speedo does not. There is that possibility as well.
Yeah.
Can we get like a check from somebody seeing whether this is the
Somebody
first
confirm
ever
this,
Singed
please.
mid lane? It actually might be.
got 9
I've
seconds
never
on the
seen
clock.
it.
They have it
This
swap
champion's been
spots.
picked like 9 times ever, and then never in the mid lane.
Okay. I gotta look this up right now.
This
is insane. We're about to
way.
see Singed in the mid lane.
I just want to run this. Okay, so we talked about C9's discipline, and their idea of discipline is, yo, bro, you see Aurelia mid lane, pick me Singed. I am very well studious inside of this game. I know nothing about Singed mid lane.
I just control F Singed in mid and nothing. I just got a bunch of do, which means error. Oh my god! If Captain Shrimps actually keeps it in the mid lane, this is
insane.
This is gonna be a blast.
This is absolutely insane. I'm trying to think of the positives of this, right? So
right.
It's a smaller lane, so that means it's easier to have. There's less surface area to cover with your Q. That word is confusing, but basically less space, more gas. Good things. Easier to harass with inside of the mid lane. The other thing is, like, he's very fast to be able to rotate if he's able to move quickly. If you go, like, Ghost or something like that, he's got Flash and Teleport right now to move around the map. If he is in mid lane, the combination of Singed with the likes of, like, the Viego that they have in the jungle support you've got there, that 2v2 has to be infuriating for Aurelia Lee Sin, because you have to chase a Singed into the Viego, who can just turn at any point, stun you, auto Q, you got 3 auto attacks, and the Singed poison, and the Singed flip. That 2v2 in melee just, like, is impossible to chase. So maybe that's the idea here. I think it's a little far out there.
Very far out there.
It's a little far out there. But you know what? It's fine.
Where...
I'm excited to see it one way or another.
According to Joshua Joshi Howard, who sent me a private message right now, he said Singed has seen 0 mid lane plays ever in Pro, according to GOL.
Broken history. Captain Shrimps, if he takes it mid lane, will be the first ever mid lane Singed. We talked about a champion ocean. What is bigger than an ocean? I've had to have this discussion before with people. Neptune. He's got a champion Neptune to work with if he's pulling out Singed mid, man.
Okay, how does this work out as a comp as a whole? Because we've just been so, like, shocked by the Singed that we haven't looked how this actually slots in and how this is going to play out.
Let's go back to AOE, because, again, AOE's competition is very clear-cut, right?
Yeah, let's go to the easy one to explain.
Let's go to the easy one. Harassment top lane, it's a ranged top laner into a Gangplank. It's probably not... You're able to trade back and forth, but, again, Kennen usually is able to get the better of harassment to start with. Irelia is a very powerful champion. It fits into both laning if you've got support, also in duels, also in teamfights. Pretty much across the board unless you get behind early. And then Vayne is really intriguing to me only because it's very single target focused, and you've got 3 melee champions, 2 of which are really focused on kind of counteracting the engage that's going to come in from, like, Kennen, Aurelia, Lee Sin, and then the Rakan that are coming out between the Singed and the Gangplank. So the focus is maybe having someone that is self-sustaining on the other side of the fight in case XU decides to dive, in case Singed decides to run past everybody and go for a one-on-one. Vayne is the selection there to give Sketchstream's ability to fight in that case. And that's why AoE's composition is great. He's taking it mid lane. He's taking it mid lane. We broke it. This is it. This is actually
League of Legends is broken.
Throw
the whole game away. It's broken.
Please, do not, no one, if I see one person in solo queue running this because of this game, I am going to yell at Captain Shrimps. I swear.
I'm going to personally yell at him. He's going to fly over to wherever his house is and just
You're gonna get
curse all the
demoted.
solo queue.
You'll be Sergeant Shrimps from now on. That's what's going to happen.
Oh my goodness. I can't believe we've ended up at this state of League of Legends.
Our first game was 48 minutes with a Xerath mid lane, and now we got Singed mid lane. I'm going to stop talking about it. I want to talk about everybody else on the team. Their bot lane, insanely powerful. Xayah and Leona have been a good combination for a long time, and now that Xayah is, like, very powerful, or at least much more powerful than she was just a few months ago, this bot lane is something that could be significantly difficult for Zyko specifically to deal with. So there's that to talk about. You also, again, you have scaling on Speedo, and when you're talking about returning fire, against the likes of Faisal, Darkwings, and RBM, their champions wanting to move into your range with their bodies, especially like Rakan as well. None of them are particularly tanky, which means if you do go crit plank, you get to like 3-4 items. It's like 1k barrels that are going to get dropped on your head. I don't know that you win a fight fast enough to respond to single ability 1k damage without anybody else really being a part of the picture. So now it just begs the question of like, how does AoE get an advantage early if you do have Speedo as like your ticking time bomb for the side of C9AM? That's something they pay attention to. Can they slow down Speedo by just like shutting him out of the laning phase with Faisal and pressure on the top side? Or can they get their composition far enough ahead that it doesn't matter if crit plank comes through, they just have enough ability to win a fight that quickly?
Well, time's going to really tell as you watch over towards his top side, and you're kind of seeing the standard characteristics of that Gangplank and the abuse he can do when it comes to that early game. Even though he is that scaling champion, those early levels are hell to deal with when you're dealing with a GP. And yeah, Faisal's definitely seeing it.
Pain. Pretty much across the board. Corrupting Potion is emptied for that, though, as well as early level 2. Drops Breezy, very low health. No!
Oh my god.
First Blood!
Oh, here we go! First Blood!
First Blood!
It's happened indeed! 100%
No.
First Blood, Ray, on Singed mid lane.
I hate this. I hate that this is gonna work. That's the worst part. Again, we talk about the support that you can have as Singed in the jungle matchup. Darkwings roams in looking to just put down a ward or something like that because his wave is shoved slightly, followed by Captain Shriek's XU just finds him out on interesting pathing, and Darkwings is like, why can't I flash? Because it's Singed. That's why he can't flash.
Yeah, he tries to flash before the fling, buddy, but far, far too late. And here comes Captain Strips.
Oh
the mid lane is not his,
No
the top
way.
lane is as well. And he is gonna wreak havoc all over the Rifting.
So he's gonna turn Singed into effectively a Twisted Fate by just running everywhere. He wants to make his impact known across the map. It's pretty much the only way this is ever gonna work, too, right? This champion is, like, already difficult to try to manage in teamfights whatsoever. He just runs down Faisal! Like, Faisal gets a little, he gets a little curious. He's like, are they still chasing me? Shrimps throws the W because he's blind, because he didn't see that rush, and Faisal's like, alright, I'm dead. There's nothing I can do. I can't even flash, because I have to flash in the direction. 2 kills for the Singed mid lane to begin the game.
Can I show so much love to our producers right now for showing his walk from the mid lane to Faisal? Like, that is the important part when it comes to Sage, because that is, like, basically his kid.
Can we just picture a constant stream on Singed the entire time so we can keep a track on him? Because I don't think we're going to be able to.
Yeah, this is a Singed stream.
It is a Singed stream. It's going to become a Singed stream. There is the fact that, like, if Captain Shrimps isn't careful with his wave, then eventually Darkwings just to scale him, like, well beyond anything. In fact, right to this moment, he's at double CS because he's been literally out of lane the entire time. It's reminiscent of, like... Yes! Okay. It's reminiscent of Core JJ's, like, Shen pick that, like, had, like, 0.1%, like presence in the bottom lane. It's like that, but mid lane for some reason, which does not work as well when you have to take experience. So, there's that to pay attention to. It's worked twice, but again, so far this is actually not great, just because again he's down 20 CS to an Aurelia, opening up the laning phase for Darkwing's Aurelia to really pop off in teamfights eventually.
But every time he goes missing, Faisal goes into panic mode, takes the recall. He's already being bullied by Speedo, but here comes the engage going for the bot lane. Zenith Blade goes out, but Breezy's not able to find too much else. Slippery fella is that Rakan.
Yes, the CC lands. If you're not able to set up your feathers fast enough, then that means Witsy can't kind of combo with it with like the feather pull with the E. That's a chunk of the damage that's going to come down onto the Rakan. Zyko does still have to be extremely careful. He's still very squishy, which means if he gets in the face of Leona and you're able to set up feathers, it's essentially just an execute pretty much immediately unless it's flashed just second by second here from the likes of the Rakan, which is what makes this laning phase pretty difficult. It also is going to put Sketch Dreams in kind of a rough position where like he's essentially going to be on his own in the 2v2. Rakan can do a bit more for peeling. I also love that right there. He pulled the key with the relic stack, so they were able to get that cannon minion, but this is just a losing lane state for the most part that's going to have to be dealt with by the likes of the Vayne and the likes of the Rakan. That means impact for the entire map is going to go to Wixie and Breezy for the foreseeable future on the bottom side.
And it's going to be very hard for that to change. It's always going to be a threat in the bot side as well. I mean, you were talking about the buffs that came out for Xayah. Remember, there were nerfs that came out for Leona, but nothing towards her damage, nothing towards her passive. So she still is quite a threat if she is able to lock it down.
That is the case. And I like that C9, they capitalize off of the bot lane pressure and the mid lane roaming, and they're able to move into bottom side. Again, wanting to make sure that they've got pressure for XU. Because XU is a lot of like what's absorbing resource in this early game. The Viego, the perfect champion to do that with. This time, Speedo's not playing something that's super aggressive early like the Renekton, instead has the more scaling pick. So now they can leave topside pretty much untouched. The Singe we've talked about a bunch, but again, when he's able to roam support XU the way that he does, just by, you know, tanking waves and just giving them over to Darkwings in exchange, and having this powerful bot side, it means they can control Dragon Pit really effectively. Maybe the plan here is just to go into kind of like a dragon stacking kind of win condition and not worry about what would be like gold advantage that would happen on top side, because again, Faisal should be able to move pretty quick compared to the Gangplank, and your Aurelia is usually going to be a lot stronger than what your Singed is going to be to start this game just because of the CS differential.
But wait until he gets online, Dean. Wait until the Singe gets running. Wait until he gets his boots.
He started Seeker's Arm Guard, which is just like... He can start armor items. He does that as well. He doesn't have to build AP, but here we see Captain Shrimps dipping into the more like mage type build. Oh wow, okay, Speedo's on the wrong side of the map.
Yeah, Speedo in a rough spot. XU tries to help him out, but I don't know if you want to join in that fight. 1v3, instantly going to back off. Cannon Barrage goes out, but the rest of the squad of C9 Amateur are in the area, including Captain Shrimps himself. Runs around, not willing to chase anything else, but here comes Darkwings, ultimate going to be used.
Nice.
Breezy gonna get caught out as the slicing Maelstrom finds a nice stun on the Breezy. But Breezy tried to chase him down and now push into the tower. Captain Shrimps blocks him from getting away and grabs another kill, evening this up 1-1 apiece, but still looking for more. Tries to get the stun. XC will not be able to claim it, and wild exchange there, but Captain Shrimps, man, he's got the 100% kill participation, Dean.
It's so painful because they just like over chase into a Singe, and that's like the #1 rule of League of Legends, as a lot of people consider it.
Since season 1.
It's so long that this champion has been around, and still like this is a situation where it's like, okay, maybe we can get the assassination. Captain Shrimps was able to get a flip in the last second. Speedo trying to get this ward actually does get it in the right position. Zyko thankfully again is able to roam, knowing that like Vayne on the bottom side of the map should be okay. And was able to move a lot faster because they didn't see him on the map. Breezy comes up to help support this system. This whole time, though, again, because Captain Shrimps doesn't have too much pressure in the wave, Darkwings is able to come a lot faster. I loved the Faisal ultimate. I thought it was gorgeous here. This is where things got kind of crazy because Captain Shrimps just covering for Breezy. Darkwings gets a little bit antsy, gets flipped under tower, and what are you going to do? Like, there's not much to do. I was more terrified that if a flash was up, there was going to be even more ramifications for this, that RBM was going to get run down. Thankfully, Zyko was able to press his W before that stun really got underway, and so he was able to get out of that situation without XU being able to punish him further.
I love the fact that Captain Shrimps didn't even try to auto. He wasn't doing anything else than trying to body block Darkwings from getting out from the tower. Now, he just stood there and pressed S.
This man's going for a bit of junk drawer on the Singed as well. It looks like Demonic Embrace is going to be his first item, and then of course he has Seeker's Arm Guard. So it's going to be a minute before he has his Mythic. But those are some pretty powerful items. Demonic is very hard to deal with. It gives him a lot of defensive stats. You consider that and his ultimate, and you're talking like 80 armor, magic resist just to begin the game, as well as having a good amount of health, the tick damage added onto the likes of the poison. It's a fair amount of utility. It really is used as pretty much just a buffer inside of these team fights to prevent these champions from chasing. It's a very intriguing strategy, but it's what Captain Shrimps has opted for. He's not too bad right now in terms of CS. He's down 24 compared to his lane opponent, which is like 4 full waves, but he's making an impact. 2 kills so far. If he's able to be this disruptor in team fights, I mean, it's working out.
I mean, come on, Dean. This is what we usually see on Singe and competitive players. We see a dive going for the bot lane, looking to try and find Breezy. Has to back up as the Feather Storm comes out. Now Zyko's the one who's caught out. Captain Shrimps runs amok all over the place and flings!
He's so fast!
He's so fast, but finally the brakes are applied, not before the damage is done. Captain Shrimps will sacrifice his life, but 3 will be picked up from AOE.
Insane. man. That's insane. The team fight breaks into like 3 specific components for the side of AOE, and they're just like not able to pick a moment. The other big thing is like Sketchstreams got driven out so quickly by Wixie, and if 3 feathers had hit Zyko, Zyko almost certainly would have been one-shot by just a feather call that had come out from that E. So 2 members of that fight were gone before anybody else showed up, and that's when Captain Shrimp starts to get to run amok. The ultimate from Aurelia was completely wested. So many things in that fight just got completely disrupted. This is the intention, I guess, behind the C9 composition, is just throw complete disarray into your enemies, because like, if they can't pay attention to everything that's happening in front of them, it's more like playing an RTS than things, because you got to pay attention to so much at once.
Yeah, you see Speedo there, Captain Shrimps, everyone's all over the place. Captain Shrimps does his job, and he does his job well to be able to find that kill. Ultimately, like, how do you deal with this? How do you respond to this? Your attention is split everywhere on the map when you see this disaster going on, when you see Captain Shrimps playing Deja Vu. I've been in this place before, drifting. Good God.
A terrible situation to be in. Even worse, notice also, one of the main kind of, like, scaling options here from the side of C9AM is this Gangplank who pulled 3 kills next to no way he just slipped with the W. That was insane. He had to have, like, picked, like, frames of ability to see that before they saw him, and they just immediately engage onto him. Maybe they were trying to be patient, wait for him to full commit to the camp first, but, like, they feels like that could have been an execute onto XU, but XU outplays that situation very well.
A little bit of a jump scare in that bush. XU responds to it quite well. And Breezy will continue his roam as he's just taken away ward after ward, establishing vision of his own. The rest of AOE kind of tailing him as Breezy tails onto RBM, but not willing to go any bit further. Just the control ward going to be placed out in this little war of vision going on 13 minutes in.
Able to keep their kind of stealth ward up, though. Thankfully, that's going to be the case. XU also knows there's a ward in that bush, because they had to have seen it some way. So, like, that has to be the case. They're hanging around. This is just a pure vision war. Notice also the Captain Shrimps is just split pushing. He got a whole plate. 3 members of AOE were standing there, not like just in the defense of one of their wards instead of going up and pushing off Captain Shrimps from that tower. This really is just, it's like an IQ drain composition from the side of C9AM. Where it's like they have Cinch, they have like Gangplank ultimate they have to worry about. They have to worry about resets from from the Viego. They have to worry about feather position from Wixie. There's so many extra things you have to pay attention to. You just can't do it all at once. The brain power required to play a game like this is astronomical.
Only 200 IQ people are able to survive this composition.
Evidently.
So much to deal with on the side of C9AM, and what I'm curious about right now is going to be the goal difference in the mid lane between Captain Shrimps and Darkwings. How much has Captain Shrimps been able to affect the map, been able to affect the lanes overall, as now we're going to have an engage between supports, a little bit of supportal combat. Wixie will join up, but no trigger being pulled.
We are back on our vision warfare, man. That's the same rush we were in just a second ago. They really desperately just want to set up this top side, like play for what is effectively like the top tower. Maybe they're trying to get Captain Shrimps into like a proxy situation where they can control that quadrant, and so he's just able to freely stand between the towers, and nobody can really kill him because he's got Rylai's on his Singe now, which means that nobody's able to catch him literally ever. You're gonna get that first on display. Oh, oh, Darkwings. Oh no.
Darkwings, rough spot to be, my friend. Rough spot to be. Kill picked up. XU will be able to pocket that one, thanks to everyone's favorite mid laner, Captain Shrimps.
Goodness me. And even worse is, like, you've got Kennen on the other side of the map respawning. Kennen is ridiculously far down right now across from the Gangplank. Off the back of just, like, the combination of, like, farming, but then also the team fights have gone really heavily into Speedo. So Speedo can just leave bot lane, walk into mid, cover mid lane against the duo that is down there, and topside quadrant now completely controlled. They get the kill, Rift Herald's going to be set up, that top tower is going to soak another minion wave that's not going to go into the pockets of the Aurelia, and even worse, like, Gangplank's still able to shift into bottom, grab all of that wave. All this gold is not being lost from the side of C9 off the back of some of these plays, because they're covering effectively across the map, making these rotations, and even better, this bot lane that we're in mid off the back of everything get to help support with the Rift Herald play. There's not even really a chance for AoE to move in and contest the side of the Rift Herald from C9.
Yeah, and this is the beautiful play that we saw in game number 1 from Cloud9 Amateur, where they did do all this setup before they made the plays that they made. The real test for them is going to be once we head towards this mid-game point, once we hit that 20-minute, 25-minute point, and we see what AoE can do, and more specifically, once the lanes are free, what Captain Shrimp can do on the Singed.
Make somebody's life miserable. He is back into junk drawer territory. He has Rylai's, and he has also built the Orb, which means that he's going to go for Morello, probably is what's going to happen here. Still has yet to even touch into a mythic item.
Overrated.
Just only not here for the likes of Captain Shrimps.
He's looking at a Mobifier guide from 2012, somewhere around there. He still had Rylai's back then, yeah.
He did still build Rylai's first back. That's at least something to pay attention to. This is...
Ooh, here comes RBM. Looks for Breezy, but can't get too much. Doesn't want to really risk it.
Yeah, they don't really have the ability. Like, even if they find a way to get onto Wixie right there, like, Wixie can always just ultimate, flash, heal. He's got plenty of resources in terms of defense. And then you have the turn of XU and Breezy with all the CC that those two have. This is so hard for the side of AOE to, like, force into. They don't really have the way to set up a team fight properly. And now TP into mid lane with Rift Herald, they're going to try to force down mid lane tower, especially with Dragon up. If they stand around, maybe this is an opportunity.
Faisal is...
They want.
Watch Faisal, watch Faisal, watch Faisal slicing! Maelstrom cutting through! He will drop, but he gets a lot of damage in, making this go even. Looking to jump in, it's going to be RBM. He will be able to get the kill, but it will fall to Wixie on the back end of that fight. A 3-for-3 exchange. It didn't look like it was going to go that way, but Faisal demanded it be even.
It's easy, or it's just really tough to try to set up 5-on-5. Does it again. This is Faisal. Again, 4 members into this Slicing Maelstrom that's able to set up. It's Aurelia Smith, that's from the Zaya. All this area is just completely controlled from the side of AoE. They do end up trading evenly. They grab the Dragon, so it ends up being very heavily, or they're able to take this completely into their favor with everybody coming their way. I don't know how AoE continues to get away with it. Their 5-on-5 composition, trying to find these big AoE ultimates, somehow does pan out despite being down 5,000 gold. C9 AM at least do trade back, and they still have gold on their gangplank to work with. That's still a terrifying thought for the future.
That was a worry for C9 AM, how some of these fights are going to play out once we get towards that 5v5 phase, because that's where we've been seeing AoE shine out much more. Now, a lot of vision being established over towards the Sparran side as Breezy just dances around a little bit, looking at Scuttle. Even a quick wave goodbye before AoE take it, and setting up back towards that mid lane. Captain Shrimps, however, will be in the side lane alongside Speedo, so you have that 1-3-1 now starting to be set up by C9 Amateur.
You do. With TPs down, actually, TPs are down from the side of C9. They're not down from the side of AoE. They can respawn in the side lanes very effectively here to be able to just, like, kind of put pressure elsewhere on the map and then TP for advantage. This is where AoE actually can look to try to kind of turn this game back into their favor. If they can make some, like, favorable things happen with Faisal's TP, especially on a flank around an objective or in a bigger fight, the same thing with Darkwings, maybe they can turn some of this gold back into their own pocket instead of continuing to kind of give it up to the side of C9 AM. That Dragon Take stalls this game a little longer to continue to fish for some of these bigger fights. It's still not easy at all, especially now with Speedo on a Mortal Shield Bow. It's defensive. In terms of like the crit, that's really stacking very quickly with the Essence Reaver. XU also.
Not giving XU the chance to reaction out of that one.
No.
The ultimate being popped by Zyko preemptively to make sure that the charm is going to land. Continuing now is going to be RBM as he goes after Breezy. Breezy will be able to escape. Pretty tanky boy, but a good pick-off coming out from AoE.
Second game in a row as well where we see C9 kind of have this mid-game lull where, like, so far we haven't really seen XU be able to convert. Speedo is scaling up. Wixie's also scaling up. But that early game presence that we saw from Captain Shrimps to be able to attack side lanes kind of has fallen to pieces. XU now, he's getting resources, but it's harder to unlock them just because, again, when these lanes are a little bit more broken, you have to play a little further back off the fear of something like that happening where like AoE just jumps on you out of nowhere. And so now AoE is able to capitalize a little bit. The gold lead is still 5,000 gold for C9 AM, but again, if things are indicative the way that they were in the previous game, C9 did have a very kind of exploitable, or at least a slower pace in mid-game that ended up leading to like the 30-35 minute mark where eventually AoE was able to find their fights. I want to see them get more active because they have a ton of power especially their like top and in their ADC right now between Wixie and Speedo. I want to see them force their issue with this gold advantage just to try to help close this game a lot cleaner.
Yeah, the power you're talking about, looking at the scoreline alone, 4-1-3 over on Speedo, 2-0-5 on Wixie. So a lot of power indeed as C9 Amateurs start splitting the map, taking down that mid lane, instantly going to go into the blue side jungle of AoE, start getting vision in that direction. We got a minute 20 before Mountain Drake does spawn as we are now 21 minutes into this game.
It is another territory where, again, if C9 doesn't push their issue, you have to be afraid of Faisal every single time that you're going to be near a team fight. He's still down 50 CS. This Gangplank is still insanely powerful, but if Kennan's able to get one slicing Maelstrom into 3+ people inside of a fight, it's not going to matter what happens with GP unless he just carries the fight afterwards, because that initial kind of burst is going to buy enough space for Sketch Dreams, Dark Wings to kind of clean up afterwards. There's that to consider as well. Across the board, ADCs are both insanely powerful, although, again, I think Wixie on this Xayah is going to have a lot easier a time putting auto attacks into AoE's comp than the opposite being true for Sketch Dreams, because Sketch Dreams has to focus like one at a time, doesn't have those same kind of defensive tools like the ultimate available to himself. And so Wixie feels like last game on the Ziggs, all about the poke to kind of throw in with everything. This feels much more like a Wixie champion where he's able to kind of push his own advantage and like win team fights for his team. And that feels like that's really good for C9 AM. That feels like something they should have been banking on from game number 1.
Yeah. And continuing the comparison between the two ADCs, you know, Vayne does have that very short range, which is quite deadly. Can be quite... Ooh, thought he was going to go in for that one right there. Quite a nuisance to have to deal with. I mean, you're going to be in a situation where you're trying to get close to a lot of these frontliners on the side of C9 AM, and these frontliners want you close to them. Breezy will go for the engage. Captain Shrimps is happy to fling you out of there. His Dragon is going to be picked up, putting sole point into C9 AM.
That will. And that's going to be a point of contention, since now, again, with actually Faisal being engaged onto, is able to stun up Breezy.
We'll get the stun, but the stun is returned. Faisal goes all over the place. Here comes the slicing Maelstrom. So much damage able to go through. It's going to be 1-for-1 trade so far. Captain Shrimps is able to get one, but the double goes over to Sketch. Sketch trying to play this Vayne as best as he can over the wall. Here comes the chase. Sketch still alive. We'll get the triple before falling. Now Captain Shrimps trying to do some work onto Dark Wings as RBM shows up. Captain Shrimps going to make the retreat instead. A very close exchange as we go 3-for-3 once again.
2 fights in a row now. The attempted pick onto the likes of Faisal ends up leading to multiple members of C9 just kind of closing in to close that kill out. And even without Zonias, Faisal's able to get almost an entire slicing Maelstrom and a ton of damage off into this team. And then, along comes Sketch Dreams, who in this little corridor is able to focus down 2 separate members before a fight really starts to break out. The important bit also being able to put some pressure onto Speedo, find that shutdown goal. It's big for Sketch Dreams. I just said, oh wait, teleport. Oh, into bottoms. Uh-oh. Oh, Faisal.
Yeah,
did he teleport here? Please tell me he
teleported down here.
Okay.
He's looking straight for Captain Shrimps.
Okay. It's like
God, look how much damage he took.
A lot of. I was worried he was going to get self-up right there. If he teleports to his own death off the back of this, that's going to be tragic. Again, Faisal, multiple times now in some of these fights, have made such a massive impact on this Kennen, despite not having. This is where he's rooted, gets flipped. The flash back on top of that in order to get the slicing Maelstrom onto multiple members. And look where Sketch Dreams is. 1 target down, 2 targets focused down immediately. And over the top of the pit goes Speedo. Speedo gets put into the wall, has to flash, and then the trade, of course, of the 2 of them goes to Sketch Dreams because he had the shutdown this entire time. This was creative from AoE to not only be able to get, like, a great slicing Maelstrom somehow off the back of what looked like a pick onto Faisal, but also to somehow buy 1-to-1-to-1 matches for the Vayne to just like win all the way through is super difficult to try to accomplish. AoE, man, their team fighting is insane over the course of these last 2 games. Setting themselves up for high levels of success is really hard to do with these disadvantages they found themselves at. Yet here we are continuing to talk about how well they've been able to play some of these out.
Brings me back to like the Season 3, Season 4 days when Vayne was a big champion that only the most mechanical players can play. Sketch Dreams bringing out the Vayne mechanics right there in that last bit. Able to take down Speedo before he fell down himself and putting himself at a good scoreline now at the 4-2-3. Has a lot working out for him. Already 2 items completed, working on that 3rd item and almost done with it already.
You do. We have Crit Plank online as well. I want to note that these barrels are going to start to hit excruciatingly hard. They get penetration already, and they have 25% increased damage, and you've got the Infinity Edge for additional increased damage, plus you're sitting on like 60% crit right now as it is, up to 80% now I think actually with the additional cloak. So things are crazy. Things are really crazy. Man. Speedo is going to hit very hard. We have hit that point where, again, that timer was there for the side of AoE, where now assassinating Speedo becomes a very real necessity inside of these fights, just to make sure that there's some way of doing that. The question is who's able to. Faisal's been able to find a couple of good flanks, but I don't know that his damage is still enough to just bring down Gangplank altogether, especially with Oranges up. To me, it comes down to, like, can you layer multiple forms of CC, whether it be the Rakan, whether it be the Aurelia, on top of that Faisal engage so that he's pressured completely out of the fight or just goes down immediately as it is. It does open up that kind of counterplay of, like, Viego gets to go in, Singe gets to go in. But again, you cannot let him get a single barrel chain into your team because multiple members are going to be dropped below half health almost instantaneously if you allow that to happen.
Yeah, get one on the sketch, and he's pretty much out of commission for that fight. He's someone you desperately need as a fight. Almost look like it's going to break out quite soon. RBM looking to try and contest this red buff. Red buff gets low. It's going to be stolen away. XU's able to grab it. Will RBM go for the ward hop over the wall? Not going to take it. Instead, he landed the Sonic Wave onto Breezy. That's not a target you want to get. Leona could lock you down quite quickly. So AoE just trying to chase C9AM out of their own jungle. C9AM really having a lot of control of this map, but giving a lot of caution to AoE in the process.
Yeah, so C9AM, they want to fight in a corridor because, again, it's so much easier to try to hit barrel chains when people get pinched into it. Here's the engagement. AoE find Gangplank in mid lane.
Looking to try and find Wixie, but Wixie's able to back out in time. Now Speedo gets stunned up. A lot of damage on the Speedo. Faisal trying to find more. Gets him down to about half health. He will retreat underneath his tower. C9AM are a little bit split now as they play around this river, dancing between AoE and this Drake. Out comes one barrel, and that's what we're talking about. One crit barrel goes through. So much damage. Zyko pretty low now, falls to about half health as Captain Shrimp starts the retreat, looking for the re-engage. Zyko cannot find it. The blast plant in time for C9AM. Going forward is going to be XU, cannot get the stun. RBM, excuse me, too deep into this dragon pit. Now here comes the engage. Sendisblade going to go out looking for the solar flare. Sonic Wave going to follow suit as Captain Shrimp tries to play on the distraction, but Faisal will fall before he can get the work done with the slicing maelstrom. Captain Shrimp follows. Darkwings trying to do work, but it's going to be Wixie here who's going to get away with the autos, get away with bringing the pace. Sketch Streams over the wall trying to find Wixie. It's going to be the 1v1 between the ADCs. A triple kill going over to Sketch Streams, but he has to back off because he's dealing with the Viego, who now has that Lee Sin, doesn't even need it. Gotta use the ultimate one more time to calm him down to finally secure the ace.
I have to say, once again, AoE's ability to try to find these fights in really terrible positions has been great. This was Zyko missing. He's half health. They hit another barrel here to knock them down to half health, and still, it's Faisal, and combined with Darkwings, who did an incredible amount of, kind of danger, like damage inside of this fight, that are able to turn things with these big ultimates. A lot of them had been burnt by C9 ahead of time, and because they're able to turn with these big ultimates to change things up, it ends up being a lot closer to a fight that C9 would have liked, with a 5,000 gold lead across the board to be able to work with here. And you see backline, like Darkwings kills 2, immediately gets onto Breezy, able to bring down Captain Shrimps as well as Sketch Stream's health. And this whole time now, you get to see what has been kind of cooking in the background for C9 other than Speedo, which has been Wixie, who has been untouched, unkilled for the entirety of this game, able to put out really good damage with the feathers and the likes of Saya, stalled this long enough, and eventually it comes down Sketch Streams versus Wixie with a higher health bar for Bane, ends up taking this fight, losing things altogether. But I cannot give enough props consistently to the side of AoE, who are finding fight after fight, man. It is insane how far down they have been over the course of this series and how well they've been able to play out some of these 5-on-5s, even though they're at a deficit.
But now the real challenge begins because we got Dragon Soul on C9AM. C9AM now posturing up towards the Baron side as Breezy leads the charge, always being aggressive, looking to find that front line engage onto anyone he sees fit. RBM, you better be careful on that side of the rift. You also have Speedo doing a split push in the bot lane, so someone from AoE is going to have to respond to that. Darkwing's top side still has his teleport available, so he can go down there if he does need to match it.
Another big thing is, like, with the ultimate available from Gangplank, it means he doesn't have to commit TP to be available onto the bottom side of the map, which is another really big and beneficial part of playing the Gangplank, is that, like, if you trade TP for TP and go back to side lane, Faisal doesn't have that impact. Faisal is so much more important than the Gangplank inside of the fight. Not that Gangplank is weak, more so that Faisal is necessary for AoE to be able to even compete inside of a fight for the side of AoE. And so that means Speedo can start to really press the advantage in this side side lane as much as possible. I want to see him continue to do so, just to try to drag Faisal around the map, prevent this kind of amazing playmaker from doing anything. Not even going to hype this up, because like RBM even got bored doing that.
Yeah, that's the tricky part right there. If you land it on Captain Shrimps, Captain Shrimps will land it on you. He goes right after Darkwing, so the team fight's going to begin. But Sketch is there. Sketch is on check. Sketch is getting in a lot of items as he tries to back away from Captain Shrimp. Slicing Maelstrom. Faisal dives deep into C9 Amateur. It will not be enough. Sketch is still up, but so are 5 members of Cloud9 AM, and they're going to finish the job to finish up the ace right there, right onto Sketch. And they're going to look to close this game out, team, and make this a series.
I thought AOE was going to do it again. I thought they were going to be able to turn that fight. I thought Faisal's ultimate off the TP was going to be enough, but they can't kill even a single member. They stay defensive enough. Thank you for zooming in on the Singed mid lane, dying there at the very last possible second. Off the back of team fighting, the scaling of this Gangplank and this Xayah, C9 is going to take us into game number 3. These have been some incredible team fights between these two teams, though. We are bound to just continue to get battered with these fights.
100% win rate, Singed. We got it in the mid lane. He's not Captain Shrimps to me. He's the Shrimps. You know, it's just pulling out the... I still can't believe he decided that... First blood picked up by Captain Shrimps. He pretty much controlled a lot of the early game, but that takes away too much if we really put too much of the spotlight on him, because the rest of Cloud9 Amateur really showed up here today.
The Singed drew a lot of our attention to start with and was just like there a lot of the game, being a nuisance across the board the way a Singed likes to do. But again, the Gangplank's barrels being able to scale up like that, Wixie's proficiency on some of these team fighting champions and on ADCs, especially in that last fight, being able to stay safe, can't give enough props, as finally they're able to turn enough team fights in their favor with their advantage to be able to take out AOE, who man, next game, they got to be taking off team fighting compositions, man. They are way too good at making those look very, very close, despite being down a lot of gold. So remove them, C9. Do not let them get AOE champions to work with again.
Yeah, definitely. AOE have been looking so good when they are able to get a team fight, and a lot of these team fights are so scrappy and so close. Even that last team fight with all of C9 Amateur alive, you saw that those health bars were blinking red. That's how close AOE were to flipping that game.
It was way too close for AOE to be able to flip a game like that off the back of that early lead, off the back of the champions that were held from C9, and it shows that they're not backing down. They're not giving a single inch to the side of C9. C9 has to claim these games. There's no rolling over. There's no, we're off to a 5,000 gold deficit. We'll let you take anything you want from the map just so we can try to scale up and eventually get to that place. None of that is going to come here from the side of AOE. They're going to fight you every second they can at every possible instant, and you had better be ready for it, because if you're not, they'll flip the game. That's what happened in game number 1. Almost happened in game number 2. I'm sure it's going to happen in game number 3. C9 looked the comfort that they were able to show in this third game. So maybe that's going to be the play, is continue to use this comfort, especially safety for Wixie is something I'm paying attention to.
So we are now tied up. It is going to be a series. The first competitive game of mid lane Singed has now come to an end. 1-1 apiece for AOE and Cloud9 Amateur. We're going to throw it over a short break. When we return, we'll get into that